Guys, it's the Premier League preview show up on Tereak Talks. You know how it gets. And of course, as you can see in the title and to the right of me on screen, it's not Edmin, it's CM. But let's get into it, people. Wagwan, everyone. I hope you're doing well and welcome back to another Premier League preview show. A massive weekend of Premier League football coming up ahead, just how it has been throughout all weekend so far. So much going on at the top, so much going on in the top four, so much going on in the bottom half of the table as well. What a Premier League season we've had. And you know what? I've got my wonderful guest. He's a special guest who has been on the channel a few times, and we've got a close relationship. And if you're an OG, you will always know, you'll know the face. But if you're brand new, he goes by the name of CM22. Do you see the bars? See the bars?
Hey, come on. Hey, fam, we're waiting for the releases, bro.
Hey, we might have to do a little, back and forth thing, maybe.
Come on.
Look at this, the freestyling off the back. But how you doing, my bro? It's a real pleasure to have you on the channel.
Man, thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure being on the weekly episode Premier League preview. I know Ed's not here, so I have a lot to live up to, but large up to the TTF, man. It's great to be back on here. It's been a long time.
It has. It's been a while, man. It has been a while since 2022, early 2022 times, something like that.
Yeah, probably.
Hey, that was your year. That was your year, 2022. for more reasons, as you can see on the screen right here. But it's a pleasure having you on. And if you don't know, let the people know you support, man.
Manchester United.
Hey.
Loud and proud.
So there's no better way to really have you coming on and doing the preview show when Arsenal versus Manchester United is a big game in the weekend. But people, if you don't know how the Premier League preview show goes, I, myself, and CM will be discussing through the games, and both of us will give our predictions. And I've also got Ed's predictions on the phone right here. So we'll be talking through them, talking through the games. And also, guys, it's your opportunity, whether you're watching live or afterwards, to get your predictions into the comment section or in the live chat, and we'll talk through them. And yeah, and there's a leaderboard I will show you towards the end. But if you want to know more, if you want to be kept up to date, join the Discord server. The link is in the description. And if the link doesn't quite work, I'll make sure I'll get an up-to-date link for you. And there's plenty of giveaways, plenty of opportunities, and just have a little bit of fun, and people, that's the Premier League preview show. So let's get into it. We've got to start with the key game, with the big game this weekend. Arsenal versus Manchester United. CM, as you're the guest, and your team will be the guests as we're hosting it at the Emirates as an Arsenal fan right here, if you don't know, if you're first time watching. Arsenal, Manchester United entering this game. Last two games, bit of a Jekyll and Hyde in terms of how they ended. Of course, you won your Manchester derby in controversial circumstances, but took the 3 points. You entering that game with a lot of confidence, and then entering that Palace game where you was off of a high, and of course a lot of your fans were looking forward to the Arsenal game, but you also didn't want to overlook Palace, and another one in controversial circumstances, as you should have had a penalty and been on the other end of the controversy this time in that 1-1 late draw. Let me know, bro, how are you feeling going into this game?
As a Man United fan, of course there are concerns, but right now I'm feeling good about watching our team. At the start of the season when things were looking ropey, I'm not gonna lie, I was one of them fans where I was like, I need a break from football, because at this point we had been watching it for several years, and it just seemed like things were never going in the right direction, even when we made changes. And I think all of the talk of the board, the ownership and stuff like that, it can get exhausting at times mentally. So there were a lot of Man United fans that are probably just getting sick and tired of it. But to be fair, credit to the manager, credit to the team. We've been able to kind of separate all of that talk with even now the board and the ownership situation kind of happening, and whether we're going to be sold or not. But speaking strictly on the team, we've been able to put together a good run of form that started before the World Cup, break, and after it, we've been able to win at home, make Old Trafford somewhat of a fortress again, which is a good thing to see. And they're getting results that they didn't really get on a consistent basis. When you think of Manchester United of the last several years, you look at a team where, yeah, they could get up for the odd big game, but
Mm.
they'll lose against the teams that they're supposed to be winning against. And that's why we've been finishing outside of the Champions League spots. So at some points, even threatening not even being in Europe at certain points. So it's good to see that we're making progress. And I know, previously, before the Crystal Palace game, a lot of fans are like, hey, this could be our year, the title charge is on. And one thing I will say is I understand why they will think that, because this Premier League season, it reminds me of the year almost where Leicester won the league, in where like there's so much unpredictable results. Teams like
Mm.
Manchester City aren't their usual selves. Liverpool are way below par. Chelsea, Spurs, even they're fifth, but they haven't been good at all. And then we have Arsenal, who've been the best team in the league. Manchester United are coming up now. Newcastle United are in and about the area. So there's so many things that could happen from now until the end of the season. So I understand why they're saying it, but I look at the team and games like Crystal Palace, for example, and I'm like, hold your horses. There's still a
Mm.
long way to go.
Nice, excellent points that you've raised right there, my bro. And I've got to agree. It is very similar to that Leicester season where teams are in transition, and even yourself and Arsenal, we're still not at that end stage of our transition yet. We're further along, of course, than the likes of yourselves and Newcastle and Liverpool, who are beginning another transition. Chelsea, for obvious reasons, with a new owner. So it is an opportunity for us clubs, and the fact that if we're talking about the three most impressive teams in Arsenal, Manchester United, and Newcastle are being in there, and all three teams are in transition. So I think it's an excellent point you've raised right there, and it is kind of, and I like the way how you spoke about entering the game. Of course, there was a lot of belief in the fact from the United fan base in being involved in a title challenge prior to that Crystal Palace game, and that's kind of simmered the expectations a little bit, which is what you kind of need, because there was no expectation for Ten Hag. At the start of the season, before those two defeats, to be talking about a title challenge, and the fact that that belief is coming and it's entering the Manchester United fan base just shows how much of a great job that he's done. And you know what? Massive credit to Erik Ten Hag in a short space of time, with a lot of toxicity surrounding the club, and there's still a lot of uncertainty surrounding the future. Of course, as you mentioned there about the Glazers, so as an Arsenal fan, I've got to give a lot of praise and a lot of credit as well. My second question, of course, as we're entering the game, everyone's speaking about it. As soon as it happened, that suspension for Casemiro. How big, how vital do you think that is going to be? And then also following that, we can talk about some other absentees or players that are in doubt heading into this fixture.
Yeah, Casemiro, no doubt, is a massive player for our team.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, we were speaking a little bit before we came on stream, what he does for our team, like where the positions he gets in, able to shield that back four, winning back the ball at an elite level. And now Fred has games sometimes where he's insane, and even the best of Fred performances,
Mm.
Casemiro can exceed that just because of the kind of player he is. But also before this season, we haven't really had a midfielder that can advance the ball from deep positions. Now
Mm.
we have Casemiro and even Christian Eriksen, you could say. He can do that because he plays more as a deep line playmaker unless he's asked to play in that advanced role and Bruno Fernandes goes out wide. But Casemiro, he'll win back the ball and he'll play as quick as possible. He's not going to hold on to it or anything like that, which is what we've seen, for example, when Paul Pogba was getting forced to play in a CDM's position. He was getting caught a lot of the time by opposition being pressed and losing the ball. So now Casemiro, he gets the ball and he passes it forward. And that's the most important thing, because in the Premier League, a lot of the battles nowadays happen in the middle of the park. And you
Yeah.
need to be able to have guys that are confident on the ball and confident in their ability to not just win back the ball if you're a defensive sided player, but also pass the ball forwards and spur those counter attacks, create those opportunities. And that's what we've been doing recently in the end of the day. The reason why we have been thriving in counter-attacking scenarios, I just think we need to be a bit better when it comes to our finishing. But I think we can definitely thrive without Casemiro. It's going to be tough, and it depends how Ten Hag sets up the team, to be honest. We can definitely play a good game, but it's going to take a lot from everybody around. And of course, if Arsenal are unsung defensively and in attacking areas, which for most of the season they have been, it's going to be a huge test without.
Exactly. Good points right there. Just before we get into the key battles and then predictions, guys, I'm going to go through the comments. I know I haven't gone through them straight away. Thought I'd give you guys a little bit of time to simmer, get them coming in so we can give you all a big hello and, a big thank you for tuning in. We've got Shay in the building. Big up yourself, Shay, in the place. Says you are 94 subscribers away from 700. Guys, we're on the road to 700 subscribers. So listen to Shay. You know what you got to do, people. If you are brand new, hit that subscribe button. And if you're a regular, appreciate you being here once again. Smash that like button if you are enjoying it so far. And yeah, share it. Tell a friend. Don't forget to do so. It does really help. And CM, you know what you got to do, people. You can see it in the title. Click on it there. And then in the description, if you want to go check out CM's content on YouTube and Twitch, the links are in there. And also a link to his Twitter account where you'll be able to be kept up to date there as well. Big up yourself, Shay. Big up yourself, Peony, in the place, saying, let's wax lyrical about Trossard. And we're signing Jakub Caviar, which seems a bit fishy to me. Hey, Peony loves them names. When we were linked with Mudrick, it was Muddy Rick. So yeah, big up yourself, Peony. We'll get into those, of course, in just a moment. Big up to our brother, my co-host of the show, says, have a great preview show, everyone. Loving the subs. Keep it up. Big up yourself. Big up Luke in the place. We got Super Nick in here as well. Chris Moss. Why am I calling him Chris Moss? Big up yourself, Moss, in the place as well. He's giving a nice welcome for CM here, bringing up the OKC. Exactly. Red Devil Yannick is his thoughts right there on Casemiro being out. He's sad. Big up yourself, King, in here too. I know I started the show on time. Imagine you got two black brothers and we started on time. Let's play, Med. I'll move it on to Ed. It is
I didn't want to get in trouble with Ed. That's all I'm saying.
It's usually me. It's not even Ed's fault. I'm usually really late, but I thought, you know what? Ed's used to me by now. I thought I can't do it to CM. He's a special guest on the channel. Big up yourself, Know How in here. Oh yeah, he has to say 8-2. I'm sure we all remember that scoreline. I'm not even sure if our new signing Kivior, yeah, it will be available for this one, but we'll get into that. We'll get into those right there, and we'll also ask CM on his thoughts on these types of signings too. It'll be interesting to hear what the opposition's fans are saying. CM looks stressed. He already knows what's coming on Sunday. Says King. Peeny's got his prediction in here, 8-0 even. Paxton's in the place. Big up yourself, Pax. Who else have we got? Have we got anyone else? We've got plenty of you. We've got Wilf in the chat who's getting in his predictions later. We've got Lydia in the place as well. Hope you're doing well, Lyd. And we've also got Vibes in here too. Says big up my guys, Tereak and CM. And big up everyone else that's tuned in watching as we talk about the last remainders of this game. And yeah, I did say I got a couple more questions to ask you, CM, in terms of Arsenal and Manchester United. Of course, you can see the form here, kind of what you're both talking about, why it's so highly anticipated. Manchester United, a draw and 4 wins, and that's just in their last 5 games. United, have been unbeaten since, when was the last time you lost?
That may have been, was it
Villa? Aston Villa.
It was here, Aston Villa game.
That's quite, it feels like a long time ago now.
Yeah.
Here you go. And Arsenal, of course, the last time we lost in the Premier League was against Manchester United. But that's in our last 5 games with 4 wins, and a draw. So yeah, hey, both teams entering it on good form. And Arsenal, of course, we signed Trossard and we signed Kivior. I don't expect you to know much about Kivior because until today, I had no idea. But what do you think about those signings of Kivior? Well, Trossard and Kivior, the little that you may know of him.
Well, I think Arsenal fans should be happy that the ball's being proactive, because there was
Yeah,
a lot of talk before the window even opened saying, listen, if Arsenal are going to go on the title charge, they need to bolster the numbers that they have, the depth within the ranks. And that's going to include guys like Trossard, who I think is a good signing. He's not going to be a starter for you guys because you already have the talent in forward areas. But uh, I was speaking to someone earlier and saying this is almost like what Liverpool did with Diogo Jota, adding that
yeah,
extra forward option who can come off the bench, score a goal, and be an attacking threat.
it's
We've
true.
seen with Brighton, Trossard is a very good player. No doubt, maybe the situation of how he ended up leaving the club would have soured a lot of opinions on him. But
Yeah.
no doubt, Arsenal are picking up a good player. In terms of Mr. Caviar, as Peony said, I don't know much. I don't know anything about him. I'm not gonna lie. So
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
looking
mean,
for you from
well,
the
me neither.
intern.
For the little scouting that I have done, he's a left-footed centre back who's very like good on the ball in terms of his passing, and that's kind of what we was looking at when we was interested in signing a certain Manchester United number 6 in Lisandro Martinez, someone that's adept to playing in that left side, who is very good on the ball with his progressive passing. That's what I'm seeing, and he's quite tall and he looks very gangly and like lanky, but he can move a little bit as well from what I've seen, and he's a aggressive defender. I wouldn't say he's as aggressive as the Licha, the butcher over there, but nah, yeah, he looks like a decent pickup who's been he's attracted interest from Borussia Dortmund, who had a bid rejected, but was for signing him, and RB Leipzig were looking to have him as the replacement for Josko Vardiol. So that's if he came in and he did a good job for them, then they would have made a massive profit and bouncing back there from when they do eventually lose Vardio. And then Borussia Dortmund, with their history of signing players, you can't really go against that. And then also Juventus were also having a look at him as well. So yeah, and he's attracted a lot of interest, and also Arsenal were looking at this Fresneda guy who I've only seen a very little bit of him, and I've been very impressed. So, Arsenal, we are awake and we're not asleep in this scouting department, and we are doing a good job. Hopefully, as we'll see them there. And Trossard, you hit the nail on the head, my bro, in terms of that signing. It's someone that we know, someone that's going to do well for the short and medium term. Long term, I do want us to go in the summer and address that position there. Was you going to say something there, my bro?
Um, I've seen some Arsenal fans kind of questioning Mr. Edu, because I think
mm,
after the Mudryk situation, a lot of fans were unhappy with the way, because obviously the news that came out said he travelled to go up there and conclude the deal, and that wasn't the case. In the end, Chelsea hijacked the signing. So, what do you think about that? Is there any issue there?
I've got no issue personally, not with Edu himself. And I don't really have any issue with how the club, if they're going to operate like that. But my thing was when that first broke through, I did a video on the channel. It was like an hour's worth, or maybe a little bit longer than that, and I was talking about the deal. And I don't mind if Arsenal if we see a valuation in a player, that if you're not going to go beyond that. But the only way I don't mind is if you have alternatives. You can't behave like that and not sign anyone. If you're going to have number one target, but you're going to limit yourself and not be willing to overpay, then you need to have alternatives, and you need to say, right, if I'm going to say no to that deal, I have to have something else lined up. And that's the way you got to operate. Some clubs operate in a way where, and it has worked for them, where you go, right, I'm going to just make sure I get target number one. Like, for example, Manchester United did in the summer, I believe. You didn't
Mm-hmm.
get De Jong, but you was
Yeah.
able to get a Casemiro in, and was he an alternative? Who knows if De Jong would have came in? Who knows if you would have signed Casemiro? But you was willing to push the bolt out on Anthony, who's received a lot of criticism, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about him as we get into the key battles of this game. But yeah, I'm so happy with how he's operated, and that fact that we've got an alternative that might actually do better for us in the short term in this season. And then and always in the summer, as football fans, I think we both can do it as well. CM is, when you don't get that player, or if when you do get that player, you think, I've got it's like the end of the world. Like there's not going to be another player in the next window. There might be a player who's even better than Mudryk in the next window, but because we were so fixated, and that's someone that we've looked forward to, and with all the antics that he was doing on social media, it was like we are kind of set our hearts on him. But yeah, we put all our eggs in one basket, and it didn't work out. But it may work out eventually. Overall, but CM, right, key battles in this game now. There's two that really spring to mind from an Arsenal and Manchester United perspective. For me, it's Wan-Bissaka versus Martinelli. I think that's going to be a big one. I think if you're a Man United fan, you can be confident of Aaron Wan-Bissaka doing well and possibly winning that battle, that 1v1 there. And Odegaard versus Fred. We saw the job that Fred did against Kevin De Bruyne last weekend, and he did a very good job up until the goal, but he wasn't really to blame for that one there. When you got a player of Kevin De Bruyne's quality, are there any more key battles, or is it that you can see, or if you wanted to speak on those as well, let me know.
Yeah, definitely, I agree with the ones you bring up, Fred. When you bring him on in one-off games, or if he has a guy next to Casemiro next to him, I think that's the thing that helps him, because he has the freedom to move around the pitch and do his damage there. The man marking job he done on Kevin De Bruyne was almost perfect.
Yeah.
Like you said, Wan-Bissaka, Martinelli. I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka's been playing probably the best football on a consistent basis of his career at the club so far. And it's credit to him, because he could have left on loan. He could have pushed for him to leave the club earlier, but he's gone on and he's pushed on and he's got himself back into the team. Even if the low was injured, you got to take opportunities, and he's done that. The only thing I'll say about Aaron Wan-Bissaka is at times his positioning can be a little off. And I'm not yet to find out if that is something to do with the tactics or if it's just him. At times he'll be a little too close to the centre back in an inverted position, and that will give freedom, for example, for a Zinchenko or a Martinelli to get forward and have a lot of space on that left side to get the ball in and cause some problems of the centre backs. In terms of, I was looking at our front line as well, because I'm not sure if Anthony Martial is going to be fit for the game. So it's going to be interesting to see if Wout Weghorst will start in back-to-back games.
Yeah.
We haven't really seen much of him against Crystal Palace, except for his hold-up play, which I thought was good, and his ability to just keep the play ticking. We're going to have to do better when it comes to crossing the ball, because that is not our strong suit at all. So if you want a big man and you want to take advantage of his movement inside the box, you need to put better balls in there. And we didn't do that against Crystal Palace. We haven't been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Good points there as well, because of Weghorst and his quality. And I don't think both sides are that great at crossing the ball. And we like to play inside a little bit more and be a bit more intricate and get our creative players, for Bruno Fernandes, getting Rashford in behind and really working that line. And that's going to be a difficult test as well. Another key battle there, Rashford peeling off of that left or wherever he plays, because Rashford's been very versatile under Ten Hag. You've seen him on the right, you've seen him down the middle, you've seen him on the left, and he picks up so many different positions in a game. It's hard to really put one player on him. But yeah, man, I'll let you go first in this in terms of your prediction for this game, Arsenal versus Manchester United.
I'm going to go straight up and say I think we'll win 2-1. It's going to be a tough game. It is going to be a tough game, very competitive. I expect Arsenal to have the bulk of possession in the game, because we've established ourselves as a counter-attacking side right now, because we just don't have I wouldn't say the quality in midfield, but we don't possess the numbers in our all-round game to be able to hold on to possession and control the tempo of the game like that. Where we get the best out of ourselves is when we're putting pressure on the opposition, winning back the ball in wide areas, even central areas at times, and then going gung-ho in that counter-attack from, like, they have this thing in basketball called 7 seconds or less.
Yes.
Where literally once you have possession of the ball, you have 7 seconds to find a shot, get a bucket or something like that. And that's what Manchester United remind me of. As soon as we win back the ball, it's forward praying, and then we have to make the best out of that counter attack. We've got to be more ruthless because against Manchester City, we had so many chances in that first half, and we will get onto Man City later on and their defense, but we had so many chances, and Rashford had the bulk of them, and we didn't take them. And same thing against Crystal Palace, really. We got into the final third, and we were wasteful. So we've got to. It's got to be a reverse of those two games against Arsenal, because I think you guys, your attacking threat is really good. You hold on to the ball well in certain scenarios, but also defensively you've been solid, which is something that has been probably one of the key turnarounds for myself as an outsider looking in.
Yeah,
I think with some of the names you've had over the years, bringing up, for example, like Mustafi's and certain guys who they have a reputation outside of the club, but inside of the club they weren't able to deliver. And I think you have guys now in Saliba who I think loaning him back out to the French league was one of the most underrated things Arsenal have done with some of their signings, because it's given him a year of experience, a year more of experience, and then he comes into the Premier League almost ready for it physically and mentally ready for that challenge. And he carries that kind of swagger and persona with him. Ben White, who's been able to play very well this season, in my opinion. You got a lot of underrated players. Bringing in Zinchenko as well from Manchester City. Like left back, the leadership that he possesses, how he plays on the pitch. Very good. And he takes the pressure off of his players, everybody around him, whether it's the midfield, the wingers, just the way he plays and the things that he's been able to learn under Pep Guardiola and Man City. It's been very beneficial for this team.
Exactly, man. Brilliant points once again, my bro. This is why you're on here. It's why it's a pleasure to have you here. And my prediction going into it, you know what? I thought of it while she was saying it, and when I'm going to say it, you might be having a little bit of a shock, and I think it's going to be 3-0 to Arsenal. And now I say that sounds very confident, which I am. I'm extremely confident, but I don't think it's going to be a 3-0 hammering in that sense. I think how the game's going to go, Arsenal are going to start fast like we have in almost every game this season. Even against you, when we lost, we started fast. We grabbed the first goal, which of course was ruled out. If we speak about that, we'll be here all night. But yeah, so we started fast in that game as well. But and there's been other games where we have started really fast, and there's only been a handful where we haven't been able to take our chances early on. I remember Fulham, we were like that, and we struggled throughout the game when that happened. And Newcastle as well. Those are the two games that spring to mind at home. But I think we will take that, take the lead and take our chance early on, and it'll kind of catch you guys by surprise in a way how fast and how intense we do start. I think Arsenal in that first 20-30 minutes, that's probably when we're at our best in a lot of our games. And if we can score one, I think we could potentially score another, and then we'll settle down in the game. And then I can possibly see Manchester United having a bit of the ball, trying to cause us problems, trying to get crosses and chances in for Weghorst, and probably settling down a little bit. And then towards the end of the game, I think we might nick one on the counter attack and make it 3-0. I say 3-0. You know what? You see, I'm not sure if you know this, but Arsenal, we've actually been better defensively away from home than we have been at home. And I think that's probably because when you're away from home, you understand that you're not going to always have control of the game for the 90. Whereas how we set up, we take more risks as you should do as the home side, I guess. And that's where you can probably cause us a little bit more trouble with, your Rashfords, your Fernandes, your Anthony's if he plays. Just a quick one. Would you start Anthony tomorrow?
I would. He scored against you guys. I think it was his debut, I believe.
It was.
In that fixture. And you know what? Anthony gets a lot of stick. And I saw something today, which is quite interesting and not a lot of people speak about it. Overlapping fullbacks. I feel like with a player like Anthony, you look at his career in Ajax, he always had an overlapping fullback that opened up his game, dragged the defender out of position, and opened up the space for him to either find a pass with a runner going through into the box, or look for a shot or pass it on the inside. And Delo does it more. Aaron Wan-Bissaka not so much. He does drive forward from time to time, but it's not like every opportunity. Sometimes Wan-Bissaka will kind of retreat, and look for the pass back from Anthony because he does it so much. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Some could say he's not in great form. I just think right now the team's not in a position to see the best out of him. And it was the kind of the same thing with Jadon Sancho at times before he went out. I just don't think the team is structured in the right way to get the best out of everybody right now.
I hear that. It's a good point. And with how he plays, he's very left-footed, and he always wants to cut in on that left foot. He's used to playing with like the likes of Mazraoui, who is that overlapping fullback, and that's not Aaron Wan-Bissaka's strong point. Maybe with Dalot there, we may see a better Anthony when they start really clicking. He's still young and he's still early on, so I'm not going to be criticizing him too much. If you see me doing it on Twitter or whatnot, or in the groups, CM, that's rivalry. Bants, exactly. But yeah,
I mean?
you got to give the man time as well. But let's go into the chat and see what your predictions are. You've heard mine and CM. CM went with a 2-1 Manchester United win, and I've gone with a 3-0 Arsenal win, which is probably the highest I've gone this season. So let's see what you're saying. Red Devil Yannick says 1-0 Manchester United. So he's backing his side there away from home. That'll be a massive result for United if that happened. Paxton also backing United by saying they're going to win by 3-2. King has gone even higher than me. He said 4-0 Arsenal with the Martinelli brace, Trossard to come off the bench, and Eddie to score as well. If Eddie Nketiah scored, I'd love it so much because he's kind of overlooked at Arsenal. Well, not at Arsenal, but mostly, well, he is by our own fans. I will say that, but my opposition fans as well. And especially against the likes of Varane and Martinez, if he plays there, if he was able to come and score a goal or give them trouble, I think he'd really. That's the only thing he's missing for me, CM, is that goal against a big six side, against one of the better teams in the best teams in the league. If he can do that, I think that's when he'll start to get, Eddie, maybe talk about England. Do you know what I mean? Because I really have rated what he's brought to the Arsenal team since Jesus' injury. And we've kind of forgotten about that. You know how you're this is the ideal scenario. How you're talking about Casemiro missing. That's how we was talking about Jesus. Do you know what I mean? But because we've kind of Eddie's done such a good job, we're not even worrying about that anymore. And also, of course, the team being so good as well, that helps, and being balanced elsewhere. But yeah, man, that's the stage that you want to get to. You miss a player, as long as you're not missing about 5 key players, as Jurgen Klopp said, then you'll be fine, won't you?
Yeah, definitely. Exactly. And I have to big up Nketiah as well, because, when he got his new contract, there was a lot of hype in the production he was going to do, because a lot of people was like, oh, you wanted to go to get playing time, and now you're signing on to be a bench player. But he's been given his opportunity, and look, he may not score every game. Jesus was not in, per se, great goal scoring form, but just like the great forwards in their roles do, especially in these kind of systems, they open up the space for the guys around them. Whether it's your Martin Odegaard's, the wingers on the other side, Martinelli, Saka, they open up the space, they drop deep, and they can play with their feet. They can hold it up when they need to. So there's so many more attributes to a striker these days in football. It's not so simple like it used to be.
Yeah, exactly that. Spot on, my bro. Very true. Striker's game is different to how it used to be. If we're playing about 10, 15 years ago, Eddie's just a box man. That's what he's going to be, a poacher. But now he's required so much more if you're going to be a top striker in today's game. Great point right there. T, what were your thoughts on Guardiola's comments after the Spurs game? I like it because I think this is the first time we're really seeing Guardiola really put his team to the sword and really challenge them. I think that's what it is. It's more challenging them. I know he was a bit feisty talking about us. He spoke about you as well, didn't he? Speaking about Man United, he said, Arsenal, they've not won a Premier League in 2 decades. Man United, they've not won a league in a decade. They're going to be way more hungry in that, and maybe we're too comfortable and whatnot. It was very spiky and it was very passionate from Guardiola, but I don't know what he's doing. He's shifting pressure onto us as the the leaders and the challengers in your case, in terms of what Guardiola says about you guys anyway, and also trying to light that fire in his own team. So I don't mind it. Have you got any thoughts on that, on Guardiola's comments?
Definitely. You don't see it a lot in football nowadays, but at the elite level, these things are happening behind the scenes all the time. Clashes between players, coaches, all of that stuff there. And it doesn't mean these people don't like each other. It means that they care. And if you're not seeing enough care from a team that should be contending for every single trophy in a season, then there's a problem. And I think Pep Guardiola's analysed that, and he said he probably needs to do something drastic to get that back. Because I feel like there are a few players in that City team who maybe they have their mind elsewhere. You think of guys like Bernardo Silva, for example. He wanted to leave. He wanted to leave not long ago. And there are maybe other guys who are thinking, I should be getting more game time than I deserve. But there are so many things that a coach like Pep Guardiola will look into and say, well, you don't deserve this over a certain guy. And their team is so stacked that it is hard to keep control of egos if you do have that many in the team. So sometimes you do have to kind of do things like this to get back control. And if players don't respond from that, then there's a serious problem.
Exactly that. Moss saying 2-1 or maybe 3-1 to the Gunners. He says Erdegaard, Saka, maybe Trossard, depends on when he gets on, and Rashford for Man United. Yeah, if Man United are going to score, it's got to come from Rashford or not Martial. It's got to come from Rashford or Bruno for me. Those are the two biggest threats, and Eriksen's passing through to them as well. Vibe saying, look at that about CM. Hey, he's got a platform. Listen. He's well and welcome, man. And he chats sense as well. Do you know what I mean? Big up yourself, Wilf. Hey, big up, man. If you are anything that's like Wilf, if you're watching afterwards, make sure you get him in the comment section as well. And our brother Edmin, he will be tallying these scores and keeping track of them and adding them onto the leaderboard right there. As Wilf says, 3-1 to the mighty Arsenal, which was the same score that we had against you last season. But that was in very fortunate circumstances at home. I must admit, I remember watching that game. It weren't nice. And you guys weren't even that good at that stage as well. But we managed to sneak the win. Have we got anything else? Any more predictions? I'm sure we do. Let me just scroll down and see what we've got here. Sorry. We've got plenty of comments, people. Really appreciate it. Graham, the Don Jones, big up yourself. Speaking about Ben White versus Rashford.
Oh, damn. TTF, it looks like let me answer the question. Ben White versus Rashford while T is out. Oh, he's back. He's back.
I've done this before. When I'm scrolling down, sometimes when you're using a touchpad and then you smash it to go back, and I'm like, oh my days, what have I done here? Exactly. But no, I wasn't gone for too long. No internet troubles, just me being stupid. But big up. We've got plenty of comments. Let me try and get some other comments that we haven't quite gone through yet, or someone who we haven't seen. Big up yourself, Mania, in here says, my prediction, this is where the downfall of Arsenal. You guys will lose 2-0 and then follow it up with a series of successive losses. Even if we lose this game, unless we have like a massive injury crisis following the back of this, no way. You don't win as many games as we have in the first half of the season and then do that, because I'm sorry, that's not how. Look at where Arsenal are in terms of how well they've done at the start of the season. If Arsenal win this weekend, there's only 4 other Premier League teams in this Premier League era who started better than Arsenal in their first half. Arsenal will be the 5th best start if we win in this game. And that means we'll be on course. I'm not saying we'll get it, but on course for 100 points. That don't happen with this type. That would be a catastrophe. So I really doubt that would happen. But hey, mate, you might be right with a 2-0 loss, but I don't think it will follow with successive losses. Do you see where I'm coming from, or do you see where
definitely
is? Yeah.
What we were saying early in the season was that wait until near enough the new year, where we've seen Arsenal, they've been in good position, they've capitulated in the past, but what we've seen from your team is they've been steadily going on, even in performances where they haven't been as great as the standards suggest. So as Mikel Arteta expects from them, they're still finding ways to win games, and that's the most important thing when it comes to a championship winning side. You have to be able to grind out results, have all kinds of performances. You got to master the dark arts as well as playing that pretty football.
Yeah, exactly that, man. Spot on. If Arsenal lose, this could be a turning point in their title charge. City are not done, and neither are we. Hey, if you win, I mean, you're right back in it. You have to be. If you grab 6 points against the league leaders, like you have to be in it. And whether you like it or not, whether you think you'll win the league, of course, but the title challenge for now, you'd definitely be in it if you'd win. Whereas if you lose, I think, it's still early on and things could change very quickly in football. If Arsenal and, Arsenal City still got to play each other twice, and that's going to be 3 points dropped and in each game. So 6 points, essentially, that's going to have a 6 point swing for Man United if they can go on a good run following this. And yeah, so it's still early, but you'd probably say it's probably finish or began for Manchester United, even at this early stage. Let's have a go. This turning point has been going on for ages since the Palace away game. We just take it game by game and lift the trophy in May. Hey, hopefully. So I do like game by game. That's what Arteta and all the Arsenal players have been saying as well. Indeed. We got anything else about Anthony Taylor? Yes, and that was in terms of King's comment asking if Anthony Taylor, well, he's the ref. Is that bad, King? Taylor is a poor ref, and but he's not biased. It's true, he isn't biased, but he's a very bad ref.
I think that may be the situation with every ref right now in the Premier League.
It's true. I like Michael Oliver. That's the only one I don't mind. He's not too bad. He's consistent, even with his errors. At least he's consistent with that, and I can accept. If you're bad, just be consistent with it, okay? Yeah, with your decisions, and I don't mind. Don't be. Was it Rob Jones was the ref for you last? It was Rob Jones.
I don't know who the referee
He's shocking. He's the worst ref I've seen in the Premier League. He was I'm not surprised he didn't give the penalty for you guys. When I saw it was Rob Jones refereeing, I'm like, Casemiro could breathe and he'll give him a yellow card anyway. Yeah. But yeah. Vibe says 3-1 Arsenal. Ooh. That's what I'm liking to see. That's how I like vibes. Legendary Apex says 3-1 Manchester United. Nav R says 4-1 Arsenal. Trossard with a last-minute goal off the bench. We miss Keno, says Legendary Apex. I agree. That's what you're missing right now. A little Keno with Casemiro in the middle. Oof, Alex Ferguson would love that. He would absolutely love that. But guys, because we have nearly spent 45 minutes talking about this game, we are going to have to move on. I do apologize, but we'll keep the predictions coming, people. We spent a long time. We gave you this. We know we got a lot of Arsenal, Manchester United fans in the community. Make sure you smash that like button. Big up CM for joining me on here. Make sure you go subscribe to him and check out the links in the description down below. Let's move on and we'll get through these games a little bit quicker. So otherwise we'll be here up until after the United game at this rate. But Liverpool versus Chelsea. Big, massive game, really, in a mid-table clash. But, with the Liverpool versus Chelsea history, thought we had to put this second. CM, what's your thoughts on this game and the importance for both sides going forward in this season?
Yeah, both teams struggling. 9th and 10th in the league, which I think if you started, you would have been like, ain't no way, especially with Liverpool. But I think for them, it's been so many inconsistencies. I look at the injuries that they currently have. It's crazy. Yeah. Arthur, Luis Diaz, Jota, Firmino, Van Dijk, all out for Liverpool. So, you don't have your main guys. Salah's not firing like you'd usually expect him to be, especially for the past few seasons. His goal-scoring form, a lot of people saying they're missing Sadio Mane as well, who obviously left to Bayern Munich. But their problems go even further than that. I think in the midfield, defensively, midfield is where it starts because a lot of people are speaking about the form of Fabinho. He doesn't have the guys around him as well who are supporting him in the position that he plays and usually how good he does. So I think people say the age of the Liverpool team, their lack of depth in the midfield areas. They've had to bring in guys like Harvey Elliott. Jordan Henderson seems like he's slowly dipping in terms of his career and decline as well. And defensively, they haven't been so great. Chelsea, on the other hand, I feel like they're all over the place. They got stitched up with the Roman Abramovich situation, having to sell the club and get rid of that completely. But since then, they've gotten rid of a lot of people in that hierarchy. Todd Bowley's come in and he's made some interesting decisions, getting rid of Thomas Tuchel, who the team wasn't in good form at the time, and it seemed like he was kind of losing the dressing room. So you could argue that it was the right decision, but even I thought at the time, I was like, you had just made a lot of signings, back the manager, and then you get rid of him so soon. And then Todd Bowley kind of sees himself in the sporting director position, and he himself is making all of these signings alone in January. So you're expecting, to mold these guys into the team where you don't really see a certain identity from this Chelsea squad. Graham Potter comes in, he's struggling a little bit, but he needs time to build an identity from this Chelsea team because they have so many different profile of players, but not one that can fit into a specific lineup. So that's the issue with them. And it's an interesting game because some would say a win for either side could potentially turn it around. I don't think it's as simple as that because both teams are going to be looking to try and win. We're going into it to see if they can salvage something. I definitely think Jurgen Klopp out there is struggling. Every time you look at a press conference from him, he's almost bewildered. On the pitch, he's bewildered at what he's seeing. And I think it's one of them ones for Liverpool where they really need to go into the summer with a true plan. But also Chelsea do. And that's the interesting situation because once again, there's going to be a lot of players running out of contract or wanting to leave the club in the summer. So how are they going to be able to maneuver from that situation, get the signings that they've got in January and bring in more in the summer? That's going to be really interesting.
Exactly that. It's so true. Both teams are going to have a plan. Chelsea going with it in a different way, spending their way out of it, and they're going to be trying to. And I think what I will say is with their January signings, it's made more sense than the summer ones. The summer ones were very scattergun, signing young players who have barely played a minute of professional football, in the likes of Amari Hutchinson, Carney Chukwuemeka, and then bringing in, a Koulibaly who's much more experienced, and bringing players in that mid-range as well. Aubameyang, of course, is another experienced one, but it's not following a plan at all for me there. Whereas now in January, they have signed young players, but more in that early 20s stage, Badia Shiel, who's played, a lot of first team football for Monaco. Mudryk, of course, who's played a lot of first team football. Well, not a lot, but he's played a season's worth of first team football for Shakhtar Donetsk. And then João Felix, who's still in that young age range as well. And that's what they should be looking at if Chelsea are going to try and build themselves and get out of this predicament that they're in. Whereas Liverpool, it's a little bit more stringent with their budget. They're going to have to be scouting and really trying to attract the best mid-level players, I would say, and really build them and turn them into superstars. Bit similar to the Arsenal one, in fact, and that's how Liverpool are going to have to react. And if they do get a Bellingham, that's going to be one superstar per summer type transfer for Liverpool. But of course, they're under a little bit of uncertainty themselves. In terms of prediction, because I'll let you go first, I'll go first in this one. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. I can see it be a high-scoring game. I think Liverpool, they're always going to leak goals at this stage, and they're not. I don't think they're going to solidify at any point this season. They're always going to carry an attacking threat with how they play at home at Anfield. It's not easy to beat them still. Have they lost at Anfield this season? I don't think they have. Have they?
For real?
I can't think off the top of my head. I'm sure, surely they have. But
you would have thought that they have with the season they're having.
With how they've been playing. Yeah, CM, I have to have you have a look at the background whilst I'm talking about this. But their home form isn't as bad as their away form. And that's where they really lost the majority of their games. And even when they perform poorly away at home, they've still been able to grab the results. Leeds beat them, of course. Yeah, Leeds, they beat them. And That 2-1 Somerville win. That's a big up yourself, Luke. Thanks for bringing that up there. But yeah, so it's not as easy to beat them. So I still think they're going to draw this one. What's your prediction, my bro?
I was gonna go with a 2-2, bro. But
Oh,
I'm gonna say 2-1 Liverpool. I'm gonna say 2-1 Liverpool.
Why would you edge Liverpool?
I feel like when it comes to Chelsea, their creativity up front is hit and miss at times. Now, Mudryk could potentially have a role in the game. It'll be interesting to see. Felix is suspended. Havertz will be up there. But sometimes with Chelsea, they'll struggle to score goals, and that can almost bite them in the foot. I feel like if Liverpool potentially get more than one goal, then they've won the game. And an interesting stat about this is Liverpool have scored in every single home game since their 1-0 defeat to Fulham in March 21. So they guarantee goals.
Exactly that. It's very, very true. Very true in that sense. Big up everyone that's in the place as well. I know we've got plenty more people that are locked in. If you have just tuned in, big up yourself. If you haven't gone through your comments yet, I'm sure I will. I really appreciate it, and everyone coming in at any point that you come in here, we really do appreciate it. And thank you for showing love and support. And make sure you get your predictions in the comments, and any comments that you want to say, we'll try our best to bring them up as well. But big up yourself, Errol, in the place. Hope you're doing well. The Man United agenda, go check them out. I will be on there later at 10 p.m. tonight, I believe. Yep, 10 p.m. So make sure you go tune in over there, and we'll be talking about Arsenal versus Manchester United in much more depth. And I need my fellow Gooners as well to, support me over there. Let's go. We got to bring it to them. So I really appreciate that for Errol over there. And he's gone for a 2-0 Liverpool win. Al Trashico says Paxton, a 0-0 draw. David Lee's gone for a 2-1 Chelsea win. Another win for Chelsea there. Moss says very tough to call. If I find it maybe 2-1 Liverpool, then there's not as much of a clue. Salah and Gakpo with the goals. Same scoreline as CM right there. But hey, Moss, your boy Gakpo, it's not a good start. Still early on for him, of course. But yeah, I've not been impressed. And I'm actually, bearing in mind, I'm not a massive fan of him. I've been even more disappointed because I thought he'd have done a little bit better at Liverpool with their system. It's a bit more chaotic, with Nunez in there as well, who provides that chaos. I thought he'd have thrived off that a little bit more. But maybe this is the game for him to stamp his authority. What about you? Because I want to ask your thoughts on Gakpo, because, of course, he was a link with Manchester United.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think it just hasn't clicked. He's had opportunities where he's been in goal scoring positions, and whether he's miskicked it or just hasn't really worked out so far in terms of goal scoring output. I think that's it for Liverpool right now. It's a weird one. He's definitely a player in there, but he needs a little more time to get used to everything as he usually do when you come over from a different country. You need to get used to the league and also get used to the team. And I think what's happening with Liverpool right now in terms of form is probably not helping, getting acclimatized to the situation and probably the system that he has to get used to and play in. So I think it will take time. Take time for him.
Take time, exactly. Slow wine, if you know the tune. I don't know why it popped up into my head. I thought I had to music on the brain. Big up yourself, Shay. And he goes for a 3-1 Liverpool win in here as well. So convincing for Liverpool. That wouldn't be good for Chelsea. And Vibe says, Al Midico Derby, it is. Hope Liverpool gets smoked though. Hey, a draw would be perfect, but either side losing, I don't mind. Really, Chelsea, of course, because, with that whole Mudryk saga, and I can't stand Chelsea. Yeah. Liverpool 1, Chelsea 1, says Super Nick. And Luke's gotten for a 2-0 Chelsea win in here as well. Big up yourself, Tezzy, who's off the back of Luke's comment saying Amari Hutchinson going to Chelsea because he was told he'd have a clearer pathway to the first team. Wow. And then Chelsea go and sign 20 wingers.
Listen, I don't know why these young players keep on getting duped by this Chelsea system. They have no chance in hell.
It's true. It's the same with Chukwuemeka, man, because I really rate that guy, Carney
Mm.
Chukwuemeka. I remember seeing him against Spurs for Aston Villa. I thought he's a serious player. And then he won the Youth Cup with Aston Villa in the FA Youth Cup and when they had a good side. Villa have always produced quite a lot of good youngsters, in all fairness, but to make that move and Amari Hutchinson leaving this Arsenal team right now when you've seen how many plenty youngsters given the opportunity to shine and given that time. Look at Eddie Nketiah. He took his time, he worked hard, and he was patient, and he was given the opportunity, and he took it. Amari, you don't get that at Chelsea. If you don't hit the ground running as a youngster there, the only time Chelsea have given their opportunity to youngsters was when they was forced to because of a transfer ban. So yeah, difficult. Yeah, stupid decision. And I agree with you as well, Tezzy. Only has himself to blame. He always had a better chance with us, indeed. And that's Tezzy's prediction for the Arsenal game earlier on. 3-0 Arsenal. Big up yourself. I hope so. I really do hope so, indeed. And I think that's all the other ones. We've got some interesting comments in here as well, talking about Jamaica in as well. I'm hoping the recruitment and personnel will improve for the Jamaican Football Federation. That's the only way we will win. We will get the big names in. It's true. And that's another stream in itself, Super Nick talking about JFF. And I'm sure CM would love to be a part of that as well. When we talk about international football. Let's 2026 CM. We're gonna do it.
Mm-hmm. I hope so. I got the shirt ready, bro. I got the shirt ready for 2026.
And
watch
just
along every single game.
exactly. Oh, the Adidas stuff as well. They're gonna get the Adidas ones.
Yeah,
hopefully.
But they can't be getting the big deals and then flopping the team.
Oh, it's true, man. It's true. When you got Adidas kits, Adidas Make kits, trust me. Well, we know the Adidas are both for us, innit? We know Man United and Arsenal. But yeah, man. Have you watched that show, Captains, on Netflix? And then give it a watch, and especially watch the one with Andre Blake in it. Is it Andre Blake, the goalkeeper, Jamaica's captain?
Yes.
He's in it. Yeah. And he was speaking about like the camp, and there was one player in particular that was causing all the trouble. You know who it was?
Rav
Morris, exactly. He was mad, and you need to watch it. Go check it out, people. I'm doing free promo for them right now, but it is worth it. It is definitely worth the watch. And just as we move on, is a perfect segue for what Tezzy brought up here to talk about Manchester City. If anybody knows about Pep's mind games, it will be Arteta. And speaking of Pep's mind games, let's get into that. Wolverhampton Wanderers as they travel to Manchester City for this game. Manchester City off the back of that win, CM against Spurs, coming from behind 2-0 down, showing that character, the cojones, and really bringing out another side of Pep Guardiola. I think this is going to be a difficult game, bro. I don't think it's going to be as a foregone conclusion as most people would think. And, Manchester City on trying to really challenge Arsenal in this title race, pushing themselves and trying to and go on a run of games. Everyone, whenever City win, everyone just believes that they're just going to go on a run of games following that. But this isn't the same City. I definitely want to hear your thoughts in a short moment in regards to this City team and talking about their defense, because I spoke about it a lot as well. But Wolves, they're resurgent at the moment, and they're a difficult team to beat. You knew that firsthand when you went to the Molineux. I think you deserved the win in the end, given how the chances were created and Rashford took the game. But Wolves certainly had their chances at points to possibly nick a draw, and I thought they were quite similar in terms of Crystal Palace's second half performance, how Wolves performed at points in that game. But bro, what's your thoughts on Manchester City and Wolves?
It's definitely going to be a difficult game. Wolves, they're under Julian Lopetegui. He's trying to set them up a bit more solid defensively. The problem for them for a while now has been goal scoring output. When you, for example, Jimenez went down, he was their guy for a very long time, and unfortunately he got that head injury. Yeah. And he's kind of warming up a little bit now and trying to refine and rediscover that form, but still their struggles. They got Cunha, Guedes, so many guys, Podence, Wang Yichang, but they just haven't been able to have that consistent goal scoring threat. And of course, Manchester City defensively, they haven't been as good as a lot of people. Like, a lot of people have been praising John Stones, for example, Nathan Ake and Akanji. But on the counter attack, they can be dragged out of position differently. We saw that. I saw that firsthand in the Manchester derby, where we had so many opportunities, and if you're able to have that quality in deep positions where you can win back the ball, and it's either that through pass or over the top, it's always on when it comes to Manchester City, because they'll push forward and they'll try to get goals and they'll try to control possession. But even in possession, they haven't been good this season, or as good as they usually are. Sometimes they switch off. Sometimes they have that lackadaisical pass that goes to the opposition. Wolves have to take advantage of this. Now, an interesting thing that I found when I was looking at the previews and stuff like that is that Wolves, when they've won a Premier League game, they've gone on to lose the next one.
Yeah.
It's going to be a difficult, very difficult opportunity to try and win back-to-back league games against Manchester City. But if they are going to do it, they're going to have to do their damage on the counter-attack, and they're going to have to score goals and put them away, which you're not really confident in Wolves doing. But if they can, you never know. Now, one thing I always say about Manchester City, and we saw that in their last game against Spurs, you can never count them out, because sometimes you look at them, you say, oh, they're 1-0 down at half-time. Nah, they'll come back, because that's what they do. They're just built that way. The mentality and the players that they have, not just on the pitch, but coming off the bench, they can do that. And no doubt, I think Kevin De Bruyne will come back in the team after sitting out against Spurs. You have a few guys also that didn't play. So you've got to look out for that attacking threat and stay solid defensively, which I'm sure will be the focus for Wolves. But it's going to be a very difficult game, in my opinion. And Wolves will ask questions of them. They definitely will. But my only issue is, will you be able to do more than that? Will you be able to put the ball in the back of the net, which is how you win games? Michael Owen settings.
Exactly. What's your prediction, Marshall, on them, bro?
I'm going to say 2-0 Man City.
Yeah. I hear that. I think that's a good prediction in terms of that, because it's not going to be easy. I can't see Wolves leaking many goals. We got some predictions in the chat. Like David, I think he's gone for 5-0 Manchester City win right there. And Luke's gone for a 3-0. I don't know, man. I can't see that many goals being the case. I really don't. But I do think it will be tighter. As CM said, he outlaid it right. In this type of game, I think you got to start Adama Traore. If you've got a good, fit and firing and hungry Adama Traore, he's got a brilliant record against City anyway. But with that pace down City's left-hand side, if Cancelo comes in, especially, to really cause them problems, and the fact that you brought up Akanji and Ake and John Stones, like I rate John Stones. I think he's a good, solid centre-back. He's a little bit like Ben White in a way, where he's a little bit underrated, because he's not spectacular. He's not like a ridiculous like defender in terms of he's not out of this world at anything, but he's very consistent at a lot of things, and he's very good and he's very intelligent. Whereas if they're your best defenders, then you know there's a problem, because Man City, when they've had Ruben Dias, who has been a monster, they've had Laporte, he's a specimen at the back and very good in the air and very good on the ball and a very good defender, and they're not at the levels anymore. And previously to that is Company, the real leader of men. Man City aren't that anymore, and I think you can get at Wolves. You can definitely get at them. Get Adama Traore, fit and firing. He gets hungry for this game. He usually does. Great record. Get Cunha in there. Get pace. Really attack them. And if you can soak the pressure and stop the productivity to Haaland, sorry, which Manchester United did do, then he will be anonymous at certain stages. So I'm with a 2-1 Man City win. I want to go for a draw. I want to say a Wolves win, but I just can't believe it. So I'm going to say 2-1. Anything else that you want to add, bro? Just before we get into the comments.
You mentioned Haaland. I would ask you, what do you think about it? Everyone in the comments as well. What do you think about Haaland right now? Because what we're seeing is he's almost kind of adapting the way he's playing, because they're not getting the ball to him a lot. And it's not just been about against United. It's been quite a few games now where he struggled to get the ball. He's dropping deep. He's trying to maybe affect the game there. I have seen he's not 100% natural in that role, because a lot of the time we'll receive it and just bounce it back towards the player he got it from. So, is this maybe the development of the player to try and get more involved, or is it a situation to worry about if you're a City fan?
It's a very good question that I've not actually been heard spoke about, CM, because Haaland's hit so many goals so early on. But if we're talking about his performances and not his ability, we're not talking about this, but how he fits into this team, I think you're right in terms of it's going to be a process under Pep Guardiola, because they hit the ground running. He was going crazy. He was scoring goals on goals. Their performances as a team weren't always at the best, but Haaland kept scoring. So they must be doing something right. But when it's not going right, like against Manchester United, he didn't even have a sniff in that game. And I think that's a systematic error. It's not really anything to do with Haaland, but they just don't marry each other at the moment. They're still not picking out his runs when he's making these runs from deep, and they're not playing to Haaland's game. And I don't think Pep Guardiola kind of wants to do that right now. He wants to mold Haaland, make him become a bit more of an all-round player, which you can only do that through time, innit? So it's going to be a process, and it's mad because those goals and the fact that he scored so many goals, people are going to say, no, you're crazy to question that. Why fix it if it's not broken? But there's a reason why Arsenal, with their strikers who haven't even got a combined goals of 10 in the Premier League. Yeah, no one's got more than 10 for Arsenal, and they're sitting pretty at the top. Manchester City, they're at their best. Let's say at their best, they had Aguero injured for most of it. When they got the 100 points, when they were so scintillating last season, it was without a 9. That's how football's going. Liverpool, the year they were at their best, who was their number 9? Is Roberto Firmino. The game is different. You required a lot more. There's differences. I think Haaland's the difference for them winning one-off games in the Champions League, putting that ball in the back of the net. Like how Benzema won it for Real Madrid in that sense. Yeah. They were poor in a lot of their games. They were poor from their first game against PSG, but they were able to win it off moments. And I think Haaland can give them those moments. It's a brilliant question. Have you got your own thoughts on that as well?
Nah, I agree with your thoughts. I think, Pep Guardiola, he can be pretty stubborn in the way he wants his players to perform for a team. And even in these scenarios, we've seen him switch up formation, switch up the style of play to try and see if they can get something out of the game, play a little different. And maybe this may be the situation where everything reached boiling point at that interview. And he said, you know what? I'm doing my part. I'm making the changes, but I'm not seeing enough from you guys. So I guess we'll have to see going forward.
Exactly. Good point, man. Brilliant point again. Let's see the predictions. So we got a 2-1 Manchester City win against Wolves, says Paxton. Super Nick says this may be a banana skin for City. Wolves can get something out of this. I definitely agree. And Super Nick, you got me believing. Stop it. Because I believed in Spurs, and look what that got me. But I do see where you're coming from. Really do, because they are going to set up in a way where they're going to make themselves difficult to beat and hit on a counter. That's how Julian Lopetegui likes to do it. Pep's not even the best bold manager in the league. Of course, Eric Ten Hag. Is there any other bold managers out there? It's just Eric Ten Hag, isn't it? I can think of.
I think so. Off the top of my head. No pun intended. No pun intended.
Off the top, I think that's a perfect way to move on. I like that one. 3-1 City, says Moss. It's with Haaland, Alvarez, KDB, and Raul for Wolves. Luke, as we got into that, he said 3-0. Shay says 2-1 Wolves. Come on, I hope you're right. Paxton brought us some news in the chat. If you guys have been keeping up to date, of course, when we heard about Juventus and their plus Valenci gate on capital gain violations, deduction of 15 points for Juventus. However, the club can still appeal to Colney Guarantee College, with also 2.5 years of inhibition for Fabio Paratici, who is, I don't know what his role is, but he works at Tottenham right now. I think he's one of the technical directors. And for Agnelli and Arriva Bene, that sounds like the most Italian name I've ever seen. Arriva Bene. 8 months for Nedved, and I'm guessing is that 1.4 years? What? For Cherubini. Cherubini, sorry.
Um,
Arrivederci. Oh, I can't say that part, but yeah, Paratici as well. Tezzy saying City aren't as scary as they were, but I think Pep, whatever Pep did to motivate them at halftime against Spurs, will carry over to this game. 3-0 City. Tezzy, it's a good point, and just one thing I'd like to add on that. It is going to that what he's done after this game is make or break, isn't it? Like if it doesn't kick them on into this game, that's it. Pep, they're done for this season. However, it wouldn't surprise me now if City do go on like a 15 game winning streak, and it does give them that kick up the backside to keep going. Then again, they might drop off in a couple of games, hopefully, which is against us. If City win, they would only be 2 points behind us, exactly, which makes the Man United game even more important. Let's have a look in the chat. Let's move on into the next one now, into the next game. And let me just have a look which one the next game. Crystal Palace against Newcastle United. CM, this is a big game for Newcastle. We spoke about the Liverpool-Chelsea one. They are 10 points behind Newcastle, and they're the real ones, that are below Newcastle that you think they are going to challenge against them, of course, although, you do have Fulham, Brighton, Brentford. Can't be disrespectful, but we don't really see them. And, of course, Spurs, of course. I've forgotten about them, just letting me down left, right and centre. Fulham, Brighton, Brentford. They're going to need a win, aren't they, CM, if they're going to try and extend this gap, because I don't think they were great against Fulham. I'm not sure if you caught any of that game, but what's your thoughts on Newcastle going away to Palace?
Yeah, I think Newcastle, they've had a wonderful season so far. Against Fulham, what we're starting to see is, and they do have players out. They do have quite a few players out. But what we're starting to see with Newcastle is maybe they're kind of slowing down in terms of the momentum. Against Fulham, Fulham were very unlucky. If Mitrovic doesn't slip and puts the ball in the back of the net, then it's a totally different game. And I was shocked because me personally, I didn't actually know the rule where if you double kick the penalty, it's cancelled. I thought you got to retake it. So I was looking at the game, and all of a sudden Newcastle restarted the game, and I was like, wait, what? So yeah, but Newcastle, they've had a great season. For Eddie Howe, it's about grinding out victories right now. They're really missing Bruno Guimaraes in the middle of the park, creativity, goal scoring threat. An interesting thing for me this season has been Alan St-Maximin, because he's been injured for a bit of the season. He seems like he's kind of falling out of favor in the team almost. And you look at him, he can be entertaining at times, and some people kind of question his productivity. And maybe that's the reason why there's been rumors of a kind of bust up with Eddie Howe. So you don't know what's going on there. I just heard today that Chris Wood has gone out on loan to Nottingham Forest, and we'll speak about them later on. But yeah, that's an interesting one. Now that they have Alexander Isak back, they have Callum Wilson fit, that's going to be an interesting dynamic. Who's going to fight? Because I'm not sure if they're going to play the both of them together like they did late on against Fulham, and they combined for the goal in the end of the day. So yeah, Fulham, that was an unlucky game. But Palace, speaking about their last game against us, what a goal. They got a wonder goal. But the quality wasn't all there at times. I think they did well in the second half and played with a level of intensity defensively to unsettle us. And they can do that against a lot of opponents. But for them, I think at times it hasn't clicked so much this season as they may have wished that it would have. I think Crystal Palace, going off of Pat Vieira's first, they wanted to make a bit of progress. And I think whether that's the spending and bringing players in the summer, it just hasn't been the case. They're missing Joachim Andersen, who's going to be out for a little bit, but Chris Richards coming in. He's played very well, and he played very well against us defensively. So I think they've got a reliable substitution for now in terms of that. Goal scoring, you ask questions of their guys up top as well, because they haven't been getting it done. And that's an interesting question for the guys in the comments. Obviously you have your Zahas, you have your Ezes, you have your Elises, but like Jordan Ayew, for example, he's out wide and not exactly a goal threat there. And then the guys in the middle as well. They had Benteke for so many years who wasn't doing it. And now you have Edouard, even though he's kind of touch and go at times. He does well sometimes, not
Yeah.
so well. So yeah, even Mateta.
Yeah, exactly. It's a brilliant point right there. And as you said, Edwards, he's someone who's in one moment, like that shot he had, and then De Gea, like that's
Yeah.
ridiculous moment of quality.
Mm.
Then the next moment, he has a simple pass played to him, and he lets Varane nick in front of him and get it easily. And very hit and miss. Their forwards are, especially with the creativity they have in behind. My thoughts in terms of prediction going into this game: Palace at home. If they are gonna get anything out of this season, they're gonna need to build on it. And it's kind of, and Paxton, I think, hit the nail on the head. And I was thinking this when he put the comment in. Palace have to build on these results because they have had positive results this season. They went away to Liverpool, got a draw, and should have won in that game. And they have looked convinced. And I thought they looked good against Chelsea as well. I'm quite unfortunate in that sense. But they really did. I don't think they kicked on against United, although they did get the draw. They didn't kick on in a way that you wanted to see them. United's a difficult game. I'm not saying they had to win that one, but really get knock on the door and cause them problems like they did against us for periods, and we were like, and that was in the first game of the season. But they do need to kick on, as Paxton says. If you have a look at their remaining fixtures, I don't see Palace picking up 25 points, even so a poor season overall for them. And if they are going to make anything out of this season, they're going to need to impress. And I'm not saying necessarily win, but impress against this level of opposition like they have done previously. So I'm going to sit on the fence here. I'm going to say a 1-1 draw in this one. Hopefully I haven't nicked your result again. But what's your thoughts on this one, my bro?
I'm gonna say Newcastle 1-0.
Yeah, sounds about a Newcastle score with their best defense in the league, and they don't really score many goals. In some games, they score loads, like 5 when they're really at it. But that's probably one area that you'd say is their weakness, wouldn't you, bro?
Yeah, definitely. And another thing on Palace as well.
Yeah,
What they had in terms of production from Conor Gallagher last season is very underrated because they've missed that at times this season. That energy of a player that can do both jobs in the middle of the park. I think I'm a fan of Decore, but at times he hasn't had the support. I think Will Hughes, he can kind of try and step up as another option in the middle of the park for them, but that's something they have to solve in the near future.
Exactly that. Let's get into the comments and let's see what people are saying in the chat. Paxton says Palace 1, Newcastle 0, with Moss going for a 1-1 draw in this one here. And Shay says Newcastle is my uncle's team and I predict them to win 4-0 with Miguel Almiron scoring a hat-trick. He's still in my fancy team, so I wouldn't mind that. David Lee's gone for a 3-0 Newcastle win. Palace, and yeah, that's what Paxton said there. 2-0, 2-1 to Newcastle, man like Miggy. Tender Item says 2-0 with Newcastle, Miggy and Isak in. And Moss asked the question here. I'd like to get your thoughts on this, Tender Item, in the chat. Isak or Callum up top, or can they both play together? Just my thoughts on that, and then we'll hear CM's. I think they can play together. There will be opportunities, and I think I'm not sure if Eddie Howe will start with that option. I'm not sure if he'll start with both of them up top, but we definitely see that later on in games, and that be like their plan B. It's good 1-2 punch that they've got right there. That they've got, and if Isak can keep himself fit, and the same for Callum Wilson too, then they will give themselves that rotation option up top. I do think in this game I'd start Callum Wilson with a little bit more physicality to his game and really pin down the centre backs and get the likes of Miguel Almiron and Bruno Guimaraes. As Tender Item says, he's back from injury, so the injury's not as bad as it was first feared. But what about UCM? Who would you start? Would you start Callum Wilson or Isak, or would you both play them together?
I like Callum Wilson up front right now and just ease Isak back into the fold. I definitely agree what you're saying in terms of playing both of them in late game scenarios or when they need to get that goal, because it works really well against Fulham with them combining and almost you can rotate them because Callum Wilson, he's been prone to injuries in his career, especially in the Premier League, and Isak, he's had his injury troubles as well at the start of his Newcastle career, so you can almost use them when you need to, and it's a good problem to have in the end of the day because you have two goal scoring threats. Yeah, if you're in trouble and you need to get out of that, then use the both of them. But I think the way they're set up right now is working, and you don't want to move away from that.
Exactly that there. I agree. Let's have a look. We've got Super Nick that says 2-1 to Palace. I'm guessing is it in Palace? Palace need this, and Newcastle are in flux. So 2-1. Interesting. Newcastle, people thought I was crazy last year at this time when I said they will be knocking at the top 4 door this season. But right again, says Moss. If we score first, we are too hard to beat when we lead. Exactly that. It's true. Very hard to break you guys down. I'm talking. Me and CM can both say that with 0-0 draws at home against you guys this season. But also in that game, sorry, tender item, I think both teams were robbed as well. We should have had a penalty. United should have had a penalty. Gabriel and then Sancho. Yeah, I mean, but now you guys you've got that dark arts mastered as well, which you need. And I do think Eddie Howe has that perfect balance of beautiful football with that Diego Simeone in his team as well. So yeah, it's a good team. That's why you guys are hard to beat, even without having the best individuals as well. Like, who would have thought, right, that Sean Longstaff and Dan Burn would be playing in a top 4 side? Ridiculous. That's like Alex Ferguson stuff that he was doing, that Eddie Howe's doing there. Big up yourself, Niall, in the place. Hope you're keeping well. Thanks for tuning in, my brother. We've got Newcastle defense, by masterclass by How. We do score goals, we create chances, but we waste them. And those chances sometimes ain't clinical. Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point, in fact. I do agree with that. So you can be wasteful and you do create chances. And Tender Item says, I prefer Wilson up front in a 4-3-3, but if we're chasing a game, I'd like to see them both in with a 4-2-3-1 with Isak playing in that 10 role behind Wilson. Yeah, he's a bit more creative, isn't he? Isak, he likes to dribble with the ball a little bit more. He's more of like a second striker, although he's like 6'4", you'd think he'd be a hold-up man, but now he's quite technical. And of course, as Arsenal fans, we know about him. We were linked with him in January last season, but we didn't want to pay 90 million that they wanted at that point. If the game is done like 2-0 or 3-0, then you can sub in Isak for Wilson. Indeed. But yeah, let's move on into the next games. We'll get through these a little bit quicker as we're entering the 90-minute stage. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to keep CM here for too long.
Hey, listen, I'm here, man. I'm here.
But now, massive appreciation. And guys, really appreciate you all that's watching in the live chat right now, really interacting. It really is a pleasure to have you all. And make sure you hit that like button if you haven't done so. Subscribe if you're new, to myself, to CM22ENT. You know how to do it. Links in the descriptions as well. Really appreciate it. And yeah, we love to have you in the community and get more of you on the channel as well sooner rather than later. But let's move on into the next game. We've got Fulham versus Spurs. We've spoken a little bit about Spurs in terms of, and Fulham, given the last game that we had. Let me get this form off the screen. Sorry, the form's not right. I think that's from 2 games prior. But yeah, this will be an interesting one, CM. In terms of my thoughts quickly on this game, I think this is a definite banana skin for Spurs with how Fulham are set up. They're a very difficult team to beat. With how both of us experienced this firsthand, you did it away from home just before the World Cup, where it took that Alejandro Garnacho late winner, and it took us to have a late winner against Fulham as well, with Gabriel with the header, and then Manchester City also had to get a late winner against them. But Spurs, they did play them earlier on in the season, and they won quite convincingly in this fixture. But Fulham, difficult side to beat. Marco Silva's done an excellent job there. Mitrovic leading the attack. They've got very hard-working wingers who Willian's had a resurgence in his career. João Palhinha, what a baller. He's that tough tackling midfielder that they need. And then the defence, he's kept them assured. They're not perfect, and you're not going to be when you're playing for Fulham, but they are very hard to beat, and they've got that cohesion. And it just shows you that a lot, that mentality and team cohesion can take you a long way in this Premier League. It's not always about individual quality, which me and CM will also be able to testify with our clubs. And that's the difference. Like, we've probably got less quality in certain positions than we've had previously. But look what look what it's taken us, and look where it is taking us, because we've got a team that's working hard. And I do think Fulham will end up winning this game. And I'm going to go for 2-0 win for Fulham. But CM, what's your thoughts on this game and predictions, my bro?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because in this game you're looking at teams who have some of the worst defensive records in the top 12 in the league. So Fulham have conceded 29 goals. Spurs have conceded 31. They're not too far apart. And Spurs, you saw their inconsistencies against Manchester City, but it goes way further back than that. I mean, under Antonio Conte, what he's been doing, he's been very stubborn with his team selections, the formation, and his approaches to every game. We know what we're going to get from Conte, but we also know what he needs in order to get the best out of his tactical setup. And Spurs don't have that. They have talented guys in Harry Kane, of course, who can create, who can score. Heung-min Son is having a poor season by his standards, coming off winning a golden boot by all things. And, he can hardly put the ball in the back of the net now. And then they have a lot of other guys, Kulusevski, who's had a good start to his Spurs campaign or Spurs career, but a lot of things haven't gone their way this season. Defensively, they don't have the players in order to compete. Their wing backs, you're looking at guys like Emerson Royale. Doherty's been decent as of late, but still not good enough. On the left side as well, Ben Davies, a lot of other guys. So they're just not a good enough side overall in order to play in a Conte system and in order to compete. And still they find themselves in fifth. So it's almost like they're mediocre. That's how I see Spurs is, because it's a running meme, the history of the Tottenham, the history of the Spurs and stuff like that. But it's almost like that in the end of the day, because it's like they're not a good team, they're not a horrific team, but some days they can be terrible, some days they can be good. Like, I remember at the start of the season, people were saying, hold on, this Spurs team could cause problems. They could potentially contend. And look at them now. They're just mediocre in the top six, in the top half of the table. And you don't see a lot of development. I said at the start of the season, or maybe when the struggle started, originally when they got rid of Pochettino, they made a massive mistake. Now, I know the form was bad, but this is a guy who had almost formed his own identity with the club. He's developed players. He's been able to get the best out of certain guys that you look at now and you're saying, how the hell was he able to do that? And they had that dip when in the season they got in the Champions League final and lost, and Spurs didn't stick with him. And they've made rash decisions ever since, bringing in, for example, you look at Nuno Espirito Santo. He didn't have a good spell there at Spurs. Mourinho, Antonio Conte. You're bringing in win now guys when Spurs are in no shape to win now. They weren't really contending for the Premier League title as is. And you're bringing in those caliber of managers who, at this stage of their career, they need the funds and they need their first options. So that's what I see as Spurs. They're just a confusing team right now. And you look at the hierarchy, just like in many different scenarios, and say, are they doing enough for their team? And the answer is no.
No chance. Exactly. Excellent again, man. And this is the issue with Spurs. Direction. What direction are you going in? What direction are you willing to take? You're getting in a serial winner that has to win now. They've done that, not just with Conte, Mourinho. You got to back the man to the fullest, and you got to know what you're going into. If you're going into, let's just win a trophy, let's try and build a winning mentality, fully invest in that and know that it might affect you in the long term, and you might not, and you might have to bounce back 2 years later after that. But if you're going to do that, go through it, win now, get the trophy, move, or just commit to a long-term rebuild. And then look what you did with Pochettino. They committed to a rebuild there, and they worked to a certain extent, not fully. It wasn't successful because you don't have the trophy to prove it. But to take Spurs where they were and play the football that they did, it was crazy. But yeah, Spurs keep having no direction. But what was your prediction for this game, my bro?
I'm going to say 1-1. And we have to give a lot of credit to Fulham, man, because they've been a surprise story this season. But I
Mhm.
know you've touched on that and the comments have touched on that, so I ain't gonna say too much.
Hey, nah, but is there any key player that, apart from Mitrovic, that you've been really impressed with?
Like you said, Paulinho, from the
Mm,
start of the season, really. So he's impressed me in that position, and I know a lot of people were saying with Man United we could have done with a player like him before we
yeah,
even got Casemiro. We were saying,
sure.
"Oh, we're looking at this guy balling out of Fulham," but nah, he's impressed me. Um,
Mm,
Willian coming back and playing well and contributing to the team. I think it
mm,
shows a level of humility where you're able to come back as a senior guy, where you've played in for Chelsea, for example,
mm,
where you thrived and you can contribute at the level that he is for this Fulham side.
yeah,
So
it's a good
overall, they
point.
just have so many contributions.
And then you've also got your former man in Andres Pereira as well. He's done
Yeah.
really, he's done a resurgence in his career. He's playing like how he used to in preseason for you
Hmm.
guys, the preseason
Hey,
Perlo right there. Let's get into some of your comments right now, people. It's been a real pleasure to have you all. And look at Clifford right here saying, "Hello, guys. How are you? I love you guys, and you're doing a great job. Keep it up." Hey, Clifford, really appreciate those types of comments right there. It means a lot. And thank you for joining. And make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already, Clifford. Hope you're keeping well. And I hope you have a great day or weekend or whatever you're doing, man, and staying safe. Really appreciate that. And it goes for all of you as well, people. And thank you for tuning in. Fulham says, Paxton says 2-0 to Fulham, which is the same score I went for. Have I copied you there, Pax? Maybe. But Conte sacked, or will he walk? For me, he's walking. What about you, CM?
I think so. I think it will all implode and it'll say, "I've had enough. I've had enough."
Exactly. Or he'll literally make himself get sacked because he wants that compensation. You know what I mean?
Remember earlier. What game was it after where he was like, maybe
Burnley.
I'm not. Where he was like, I'm not doing a good enough job. He was
Yeah,
almost
maybe I'm the
questioning
problem.
himself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Try. You know what? It's like them ones in a relationship. Yeah, when you're in a relationship with a girl, and then like, no, I'm the problem. No, 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 no. It's not you.
It's not
It's
you.
me.
It's me.
It's not you, it's me. Like, shut up, man. You don't want to be here. Don't blame it. Don't do that. Just tell me you don't want to be here. Exactly. Oh man. And David Lee goes for a 2-2 draw right there as well. Moss says a 1-1 draw. I think Mitrovic and Richarlison to score. Expression's going to be fuming yet again. It's our predictions. He will be. Hilarious. 2-0 Spurs, says Shea. Marco Silva, underrated manager because of his dodgy Watford policies and his time at Everton, which nobody has succeeded
Mhm.
apart from Ancelotti to a certain extent there. And yeah, speaking of Watford, you got Moss going about Kone. I'm not going to lie. CM, I'm not sure if you've seen it. I was looking at I was scrolling and Ismaila Kone,
Mm.
he looks like a baller still. He had his first game for Watford, doing little flicks over man's head and that. Moss has been hyping about him for ages. Says he's the Canadian Pogba. So hey, maybe one to keep an eye on right there. I'm not sure if you want a Pogba back at your club, but yeah, if you want a player of that ability, maybe. Fulham win, hopefully. Kane to United in the summer. Just quickly, would you take that? Would you take Kane to United?
You know, a few weeks ago I said no, but I'm not sure. I feel like
Mm,
the reasoning I gave earlier was because of his age. Not
yeah,
sure if he would fit the situation because we already have the likes of Casemiro, Varane, and you don't want to have too many players who are in an older profile, in the older bracket of things, or maybe in the last stage of their careers.
yeah.
But the things that he guarantees are goals in the Premier League, and he can create. So it's the question gets tougher as the weeks go on. Really.
It does because it's true. I understand why you'd initially say no because age and how much it'll probably cost to get him, but maybe it won't
Mm,
be too bad now because what he's entering a year left. But yeah, you're thinking age mainly, age with Kane, and maybe you want someone who's a little bit more faster. I think he's just more
mm-hmm,
players who are quicker are more attractive. Let's be real, but him, as you said, the goals and him with Rashford, he would turn Rashford into his son. And Eric Ten Hag, and it's not even they're going to play that negatively, but in games where you might need to sit back and soak up a little bit of pressure, spin, run, play, because Kane will find you. His passing is out of this world for a striker. And it's a shame we don't see it for England, because he doesn't really do that for England. But for Tottenham, even yesterday, like, not many people rated his game, but the passes he was playing, some of them, was unbelievable. And you can't defend that. So yeah, and Bruno were feeding him, Eriksen feeding him like he was back in the day. I'm sure he'd just eat and carry on scoring goals. So I hope for our sake that I hope he leaves Tottenham, but he doesn't go to United. And that's a good sign for you guys if you do get him, if I say that. What was I going to say now? Let's go into it. I would never want to be Spurs manager, especially these times. Not worth the stress. Bit of a poison chalice, isn't it, Pax? Let's see. Spurs mentalities fell off like Conte's wig. Exactly that right there. He needs to put that.
I saw someone in the comments, bro. Sorry for interrupting.
No, cool. That's all good.
Earlier, remember we was talking about board managers in the league.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody said Conte without under his wig.
No way. Oh no, I didn't even think of that. That's whoever said that. That's creative. Big respect for that, because I didn't. Oh, of course he is bold, but he's got a wig on there. Oh man. That's a good one. Thanks for bringing that up, CM. Spurs new stadium, old disjointed team. Exactly that, Super Nick. It is mad. It's mad. That's like the direction doesn't make any sense. Kulusevski, if he's available, come to the Arsenal. Hey, I wouldn't mind that right there. Spurs should have. What was you going to say, bro?
Modern day betrayal.
Modern day Sol Campbell. Yeah. I'll take that. Inject it. Spurs should have got a project manager like Potter. Disrespect intended. Who hyped them up to get winners to win. Now they don't win anything. Exactly that vibes. I think they did try and go for Potter before Conte, but he rejected them. And if Potter's rejecting you and going to Chelsea, then it's bad. It is over there. Glad Pereira's doing well for our preseason Perlo. Exactly. He's doing it excellently. And Supernick says Fulham to win 2-1. Conte to talk his way into being sacked. That's how I think it's going to go as well, Supernick. How he's going to leave. He'll push himself out the door. It's not me. It's not you. It's me approach that me and CM ever conjured up right there for Conte. I got Mitrovic in the team for a reason. Manchakushana. I'm hoping he doesn't score now. Need Conte to stay the season out. Enit King, stay there. Don't get top 4. Let's bring in your Swedish brother, Kulusevski, in the place. And King gone for a 2-1 Fulham as well. Big up to everyone who has subscribed. I think we picked up 2 new subscribers. Appreciate you for letting us know, Shay. And we appreciate those 2 new subscribers who have joined in. And big up yourself, Kendall, as well. United going to be in high visibility kit. Hopefully they work harder than the stewards this weekend. And if you want to check mine and CM's thoughts, we spoke about it for a good 45 minutes earlier on. So go into that, and me and CM talk about the game and everything surrounding that as well for both sides, as we're going to move on into the next games, and we'll group these up. We'll put 2 of them together as we are getting down. Apologies if it's your team that we're going to be talking about. But yeah, just to speed things through. Otherwise, me and CM, you see the way we do things, meaning we can chat for ages. You know what I mean? And it's because we love football and we love each other's company as well. I'm speaking for myself here. I don't CM. Are you enjoying it?
Listen, man. Come on, it's likewise the other way, bro. Like, the conversation's always on here. I know people mock it because they be like, yo, there's never a show that's under 2 hours or something. But I don't mind that. If it's a good conversation and it's engaging, which it always is here with T, whether it's Ed, anybody else, then that's it, man. That's it.
Thank you very much, man. Money coming later. But yeah.
Hey, come on.
Yeah. Let's get into the next games. And the next one that we'll talk about, the next 2 we'll talk about is West Ham versus Everton, which is a massive game for both teams, relegation candidates in there as well. And then you're also thinking about, the managers that are both under pressure in this one. The managers have links to each other in that sense. David Moyes being the former Everton manager and Frank Lampard being a former West Ham player. So it's going to be a big one to talk about here. And then the next one will also link with it because they're both towards the same end of the table, is Southampton versus Aston Villa. So, CM, I'll give you the floor on these two. West Ham versus Everton and Southampton versus Villa.
Man, the Manchecutioner says it best, El Sacico, when it comes to West Ham Everton. I mean, there's been rumours in terms of David Moyes that if he loses this game, that could be him finished. So Frank Lampard, if the bad results continue, it can't be far away either. So, man, it hasn't been a good season at all. Not long ago, West Ham were in Europe. I think that messed them up, it's safe to say, because they didn't have a team with a lot of depth as it was. And I think that those added games in the midweek has really affected them. And I know David Moyes, he had a kind of interview recently in a podcast where he said he wanted to develop West Ham and change what they were. Because obviously some teams, you just get used to what they are. Maybe they'll have the odd season when they're trying to get into Europe, but for the most part, they're finishing mid-table, and that's that. He tried to do that with Everton. I remember when they got into the Champions League that one season, but it didn't really work out that way. But even now with West Ham, he wants to do that also. But I don't think they've had the squad depth to be able to do that. And the signings they have brought in, they haven't been in great form either. You look at Scamacca up front, you trying to get that option. They've even brought in Danny Ings now. But even that, is that going to be the solution for West Ham? Because Danny Ings himself, on his day, can be really good. But injuries, inconsistency, it's another problem of the same thing. Because Scamacca, he's had his injuries fair share. Mikel Antonio, he had a great season not long ago where he was in goal scoring form, and that has dried up now. And it's not a good situation for West Ham United. Everton, I remember when Frank Lampard seemed like he was starting to get a good response out of the players. He found the guys he could rely on. And for Everton, what they are is you need to play with a lot of effort and physicality all over the pitch. When they're not doing that, when they're not able to score goals or defend with the level of effort and physicality, then they will play bad and the fans won't respond well to it. I was thinking about it leading up to this game. You can almost compare the Newcastle and Everton fans in the same kind of mode, because now the Everton fans are kind of protesting against their board and their ownership, right? But before, Newcastle were in a similar scenario. And what they want from their players as a minimum is effort, is passion for the badge. And if they're not getting that, then they're going to voice their opinion. And Everton, for so many years now, how many years have we really said, not this season per se, but previous season, we say, this could be the year Everton force their way into Europe, maybe try and contend to get into the top four, and it never materializes. And I think the fans have had enough in their regard there. The Southampton Aston Villa game is interesting because Southampton rock bottom, they're struggling. They brought in Mr. Jones and they're still trying to find a way to get that winning formula. Home and away, they're struggling. Aston Villa, they've got Unai Emery now, and they're starting to build a little bit of consistency in terms of results. I saw a stat saying he could become the first Villa coach since John Gregory in '98 to win 3 of his first away games. So his first 3 away games. So that's an interesting one there. But I would expect Villa to win this one. I would say probably 2-0. But it's going to be a difficult one. And as for the West Ham game, going back to the prediction, I'm going to say 0-0.
You think it's going to be a tight score? Well, not even draw. Scoreless. Desmond 0-0 draw for that one. And what was your prediction for the Villa one? What was it?
I was going to say 2-0 Villa.
2-0 Villa. Wow, that's interesting. Because with West Ham Everton first, that one, as you said, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of how hard it is for both sides and struggling with injuries with West Ham, with up front. Danny Ings coming in, which Super Nick puts in the chat. And this is why it's interesting because, you know, thinking about it, Aston Villa just sold Danny Ings. They brought him in. He was a part of that Grealish money. Didn't quite work out, and it wasn't really due to performances. It was just maintaining fitness and consistency with his, because every time he was playing well, he'd pick up an injury, be slow to get back right at it, and it didn't really suit what the manager was trying to build when Steven Gerrard was there, because Ollie Watkins, he preferred to play him, and Ings wasn't really getting much of a shout. Whereas, yeah, West Ham, I don't know if that's a perfect fit for him. They do need him. They do need goals. They are missing that. And Antonio, there's been talk about him going out on loan as well. So that doesn't make sense to me because they're not the same type of striker. I mean, those two could work well together in tandem because Antonio is a bit more, he does everything well outside of the box and outside of scoring goals. And then Ings, not so great, but he's good at putting the ball in the back of the net. So, yeah, I think that Everton, as you said, that turmoil around the club in terms of prediction, it's hard. It's really hard to. I'm going to go with a 1-1. I can't go different. I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of a draw for that one. So I'm going for a 1-1 draw. But then Southampton versus Villa, I'm going against you. You know, CM, I don't go against you often. But the reason is Southampton, they've had this turning point. Manchester City, that was the game in the Carabao Cup. 2-0 win. That was an excellent performance. They deserved it as well. They were the better side against Manchester City, against a strong City side. And then they went away to Everton. 1-0 down, I believe. Yeah, it was 1-0 down off a Vanana header. And then James Ward-Prowse stepped it up. And a player that was linked with Villa not too long ago, but decided to stay at Southampton. He's been their talisman. And I saw a stat. I think because it was after it was during the Man United game where Rashford's the most informed player in like Europe at the moment, and James Ward-Prowse is in there since the return of the international break. He scored 5 goals, James Ward-Prowse, and I think that's going to be a danger. And I think if he can build that stability there at the back, Nathan Jones, it will be hard for Villa to get for Villa to break down. But as you said, they're away from home since John Gregory. That's a brilliant stat you brought up there, and Emery. Speaking from someone who's had Unai Emery, he does start well and he gives you that belief because he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. The issue with him is communication sometimes, and maybe he overcomplicates things a little bit more. He overthinks things, and it kind of takes away from Villa's game. And when you want to have a style and you want to impose yourself, it's not quite as easy because he's focusing too much on the team's strengths and tries to negate that. That's why he works really well in cup competitions as well, I believe, because he really has an understanding of the opposition, but it's hard for the players to really get a message and really build some consistency off the back of it. I'm going to go with a 2-1 Southampton win right there. I was leaning a little bit more towards Villa. I kind of spoke myself and you spoke me into it with that record and stat. But I'm going to go 2-1 Southampton. So a 1-1 in West Ham Everton and 2-1 Southampton right there. Let's see what you're all saying in the chat right now. We've got plenty of predictions in here. We've got, let's go from the very top. We've got Shay says 1-0 West Ham against Everton. And then also Paxton saying a 1-0 West Ham against Everton. David Lee's also back in West Ham. So we've got a lot of West Ham backers right here, which is mad. Which, you know, maybe because they're at home and Everton have been that bad. And if that happens, then do you see if there is a winner out of that West Ham Everton game, there's a sacking following that, do you think?
I think so.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. Deadhampton 0, Aston Villa 0. 2-1 Hammers says Super Nick. Yeah, Moyes and Lampard, Al Saki cult time again. It is by the looks of it. Me and CM agree. David Lee's gone for 2-1 Aston Villa win right there. Saki cult derby. Whoever loses is done. Shay's gone for West Southampton as well. Agreeing with me there. Moss gone for a 1-0 West Ham win. Although they're equally bad right now, 1-1. I'm guessing that's for Southampton. Is it Southampton? No, hang on. Is it Southampton? Yes, because you put your Hammers one in there, so it must be for the Southampton game right now. Paxton's also broke some news. Leicester signed Victor Christensen on a permanent deal. I'm not even sure who he is or where they're signing from, but hey, Leicester, their signings hit and miss recently. But is he a defender? Is he? I don't even know. Paxton, let me know a bit more. You're the scout over here. You're the resident scout. Moss has gone for a 1-1 draw there. Still 1-0 to West. Is it still 1-0 to West Brom? Decent. I'll take that. Big up Lee in the place. He's gone 5-0 Villa. He's an Aston Villa fan as well, saying up the Villa. And he says, good. He's saying, good lad to you, CM. Put some respect on Sir Gregory's name. Big up yourself, Rich, as well. Hey, you brought out. Look, you got the Aston Villa fans going with that stat right there, CM. So it was worth it. It was worth it. Big up Lydia as well. Says up the Villa, and then Paxton says T's bringing out all the Villa fans. Tell me about it. I just deep that Tereak is repping New York City FC. Oh, the colours. I've just noticed it. Yeah. the black, white, and the blue. Oh, yeah. I forgot. Marcy, don't remind Marcy, he won't be happy about that. But Emery doing a good job indeed. And 2-2 draw right there between King saying between Southampton and who they're playing? Villa. Sorry. I brought all the Villa fans and completely forgot him. But Super Nick did go for a 2-0 Villa win. Appreciate that as well there, David, as well. Take care. So the next two games, and is it the final two? No, it isn't. It's not the final two. We've got three more. So yes, let's go. Sure, we can do this again. We can group these a little bit more so we can go through them. Bournemouth versus Nottingham Forest. That one's a big game. Just before we go into the game, of course, a Nottingham Forest player. I wanted to bring this up to you anyway, and I wanted to bring this up and listen to many Man United fans. If you are in the chat live watching, let me know your thoughts as I ask CM. Have you watched that Jesse Lingard interview with Stephen Bartlett and Diary of a CEO? What did you think about that?
Oh man, there's a lot of avenues we can look at. I mean, just from a Manchester United perspective himself, it's damning again the way he speaks about the changes of the club since Sir Alex and David Gill left. And David Moyes, funny enough, he had an interview on the same channel and he did the same thing, where basically because they spoke to people within the club and they were speaking how David Gill knew everybody's birthday, same as Sir Alex, communicated with everybody around the club and made it a community, and that's how you build culture. When Ed Woodward came in, that didn't happen. Everything changed to a more corporate style of things and not in a good way. So yeah, and then the other things as well about mental health is personal life. It's a lesson, and I feel like this year there've been a lot of lessons when it comes to football fans online, and I know some will still ignore it and do the same old thing, but there've been a lot of lessons for football fans and the way they speak about players. Being at the game, the Crystal Palace game the other day, it gave me a different experience because I almost got to hear up close how certain guys respond, like, effing and blinding, saying the players this and that and just calling them names. I think when it comes to certain players, even the Jadon Sancho situation at United and how he's had to take a break away from not just social media, from the game itself. So yeah, I'm happy that mental health has become more of a highlight in sports, because I look back to even when I was younger, and when you play sports, you're treated as an athlete and almost a robot, and they expect these things out of you, and if you're injured, they'll kind of leave you in the dark, especially at grassroots level. But nowadays we're seeing at the top, players are being treated carefully as the individuals they are as human beings, and I respect that, and it will only develop as time goes on. But yeah, when it comes to that, that's why I thought it was a really interesting interview to hear about his personal life and to get more of an insight of the way the club communicated with him, the way the club treated him. It's just unacceptable. And, it's more of the same of what we've kind of assumed as Man United fans over these years. The way they operate as a club, they've eradicated all of the class that Manchester United used to have. the communication between everybody, and just the nature of being genuine, the culture of being genuine, being relatable. It's not the same anymore.
No, exactly that. It's a brilliant points that you brought out right there, and I felt the exact same way watching it. And I've been talking to a lot of people about it who have had similar opinions to us, but also opposite opinions too. I was talking to my sister about it yesterday, and she was kind of indifferent about it in terms of how it was, because I like Jesse Lingard as his personality, because I like people who have personality within football and who aren't afraid to express that. Of course, it comes with a difference of opinion, because people rather like to focus on the game. That's all I care about. If you stay professionalism, if you stay professional and just keep focused, then you'll be fine. But these footballers, the way you invest in footballers is through personality and like the reason why I support Arsenal is because my sister, I had no choice, but my sister bought into Ian Wright's personality. And if you look at how Ian Wright's pathway into football, it wasn't the normal route. Plenty of Arsenal fans love Thierry Henry because of his personality throughout the game. Manchester United, Eric Cantona is one of them. You know what I mean? And there's plenty more to follow. And this is the thing. Jesse Lingard's not on these players, not on the level of these players, but for local kids in and around his area, he's a legend to them, and he's an inspiration for them. And especially seeing the circumstances that he's been around and hearing about his mother and how serious her depression was and how it affected him throughout his whole life. I'm sure there's people that can relate, and I'm sure we've like mental health in sport in how it affects us, not even just directly but indirectly through other people within our family. It can affect you in your work, on your career, and it's something that needs to be spoken about, and especially with men as well, because it's just head down, grind, keep doing your thing. Whereas I feel like men especially need to be able to speak about this and have talked to other men. And you guys who have been long time subscribers, CM and Super Nick, you definitely know this as well, and Paxton and Moss and everyone else, of course, when we do the live shows with myself and Rich. It's important to get an understanding of people and to understand their circumstances and backgrounds. And I think it was amazing to hear about Jesse Lingard, and makes sense why he had those certain dips in his career at Manchester United. And and when he spoke about the club, I thought that was interesting as well, because I'm not a Man United fan, but as a football fan, to watch the difference between when Sir Alex was there and David Gill, as he said, remembering their names and talking to them, and what Alex Ferguson did for Ferdinand's grandfather who was dying and stuff, and brought him his favorite whiskey and everything, and it was amazing to hear. And it was good. It was good insight, even though you could see it was quite difficult for him to speak about. Did you agree with that? Like he wasn't as articulate, and it's not something that he's like, I'm completely past. But I thought it was so even more strength to speak about it in the middle of a madness, in the middle of it all, whilst he's still being affected. And he said that my mom's always going to suffer with it, but she's got the right support system now, and I know how to cope with it a little bit better, and those things. So I thought that was important. Any last words on that before we get into the fixtures?
Definitely. I think, a lot of people may have seen him and said, oh, he's a bit laid back in this interview. But I just think when we all find ourselves in this situation, when it's something difficult to speak about, you're going to go in your shed a little bit and you're going to lower your voice and stuff like that, because you're not confident of speaking in that. But it's that breakthrough moment that matters for you and for everybody else around that will be positively affected by that. So shout out, and one more thing. Well, I gotta do this for the culture. It's live coming back.
I thought that was coming. It will be coming back. It will be. Me and Rich actually spoke about this a week ago. Last week. It was last week. Yeah, I can promise. And Rich can vouch for this. So we're looking to bring this back. Most likely in the next international break, unless there is a break. That's the latest we'll bring it, which is in March. I know it seems a while away, but we will definitely bring that back latest in March. Hopefully, if there isn't a break within like FA Cup weekends and stuff or anything like that, we will bring it in then as well. But yeah, the latest I can confirm is in March. And yeah, we'll have to give a little bit of a recap for the previous episodes and whatnot, because yeah, it has been a while. It has been a while since we've done them, and yeah, we will bring it back. And we kind of had this thing, guys, where we had like a calling show afterwards as well, where me and Rich, we kind of started it off the conversation, speaking about our experiences in life, and Tish did a fantastic job of like interviewing us last time. And yeah, and we'll definitely like to break it out again, and so we can listen to your thoughts as well. CM, you came on as well, didn't you, for one of the other calling shows, didn't you?
Yeah,
which we spoke about last time. And yeah, man, it's definitely something that I feel like we should feel comfortable in talking about and sharing. And if we can do it, yeah, and even struggles that we may currently be going through, it's not just everything, the things that you may have been through currently is definitely most important, because then we can provide the right support with each other and understanding. And because this community is such a tight knit, like we spent probably 5 minutes or so non-football, and people have all remained in here and still been in the chat and still talking about football and whatnot. But yeah, just the support and the loving community that we have here just is amazing, and I appreciate it. And yeah, and hopefully that we can expand it, and then also and keep doing this, and we can dedicate content for it as well. But yeah, let's talk about the Bournemouth versus Forest. I thought it was an important topic we had to bring up and speak about. It's something that I thought, and I watched yesterday, in fact. So Bournemouth versus Nottingham Forest, this is the first game. CM, what's your thoughts on this game here and your prediction?
I haven't watched a lot of both teams, even more so Bournemouth, but Forest, you know, there was the rush of bringing in all those players, and they still are bringing in players. I heard that they have is it 30, if I'm correct, maybe 30 something senior players in the squad, which is crazy. But yeah, Nottingham Forest, I feel like there's something in there where they can start to find a bit of consistency. It's always difficult when you bring in a whole load of players. We've seen it time and time again in Premier League history, where a club will either come up or they'll bring in a whole load of new players, and it takes a while to embed them and get them fitted in that culture. And I think Nottingham Forest is starting to do that, and hopefully maybe their results will get better because of that. But I am a fan of that team, and I always look out for them due to Jesse Lingard and co. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the game so far. Bournemouth, I don't really know much about them, so I'm hoping maybe guys in the chat can let me know how they've been recently, because there's certain Premier League teams I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna come out here and cap and do some crazy stuff. There's certain teams I miss out on, and I'm not gonna lie on that.
Exactly that. And it's with Bournemouth though, with how they've been performing recently, it's not been as good as they were on the Gary O'Neill when he was the caretaker manager, that's for sure. When looking at them, they had a really good spell. I call it the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer spell, when he was in there as caretaker, and then he was given the permanent job, and it has been an issue, and it has something that they've struggled with, and it kind of shows you that the familiarity breed contempt. That's definitely happened with them. They are making some interesting signings from Lorient, because their owner, I believe, is a shareholder or is part owner of Lorient, and they've brought in a Dango Utara, who is a young player, a striker who's going to. I don't know too much about him either, but 20 million, that's a big outlay for him. So yeah, they're definitely going to be hoping for an instant impact there. And then also they've been linked with Enzo Lefebvre. I'm sure I'm sure every club in that middle part of the table has been linked with his brother after he's had a fantastic season for Lorient so far. A creative midfielder who's very tenacious in the middle. So yeah, it's going to be if they do get these players over the line, maybe they could have a shout of staying up. But with the way that they're going CM at the moment, I think it's only one way, and it's down, unfortunately. And Forest, they are picking up a little bit though, and they're having a little bit of consistency. If they can win this one away from home, then hey, we're talking about. I think I said this at the start, right? I said Forest will stay up. I stuck with it when they were going through the rough patch, and just before they hit this run of form, I went, "That's it. I'm gonna concede now. Forest are going down." And then look at that, they're going to go and pick it up. So now I'm gonna say a Forest win. You know, CM, you know what you gotta do. Bournemouth.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go 2-1 Forest. Okay.
I'm going with the Forest win as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 1-0 Forest. I think it'll be a big win for them. And I remember watching them against Liverpool. That's a notable game that stands out. The energy they play with, the tenacity, the pace, the physicality. Once again, which is so important with teams like Nottingham Forest in this league. If you can compete physically and you can get something out of those big sides, and then if you even start to win against the teams where that you're competing with in those lower positions, then that will help too.
Exactly that. It will be interesting. So yeah, I'm going for a Forest win 2-1. Which one was yours? Was yours 2-1 as well? Was it? Or
1-0.
1-0. Oh, 1-0. So still tight. 1 goal margin, a 1 goal deficit right there. Let's see what you guys and girls are saying in the chat right now. So yeah, just on earlier in terms of Lingard, and when we was talking about this, Lingard's professionalism at times wasn't good enough still. And it doesn't excuse these things that were easily avoidable. But of course, he was messed around, and hope he gets the help that he needs. Exactly. And I think he has got that now, and he has that little bit of stability. Yeah, because Man United and what's going on at home ain't the most stable places at all. So now he's enjoying his football. That's the main thing for him as well. The change in culture and personnel has had a detrimental effect on the team. Certain things that would have been managed better under Sir Alex Ferguson. Indeed. 2-0 Bournemouth, says Shay. 2-1 Forest, says David Lee. And Moss has gone for a 1-1 draw with Billing and Brennan Johnson. Billing has been a very interesting player so far. And then, yeah, we've only had 2 live shows so far. And yeah, we'll get into a little bit more as well. And yeah, we'll have to keep on us, people. Keep on me and Rich. Definitely me as well, to keep getting this out. And hope that this will encourage other men to speak out to. Yeah, hope so. It is difficult, and yeah, I found it. I know you guys, how you guys see me now. Ever since I started the channel, you're about Tereak. You're very open with how you speak. I wasn't always like this at all. I found it really hard, and it was only one day where I literally broke down, and that kind of changed it. And sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to really to make sure that you can't get any lower, so you can pick yourself back up. So I understand anyone in any shoes, even if you don't quite understand what you may be going through. I didn't understand for a while, and I was struggling, and it was only when I hit that rock bottom where I realized I need to sort something. I need help, and I need to sort something out, and accountability as well. So yeah, definitely speaking out is a big important topic right there. And yeah, and we got beautiful comments in here as well. Really appreciate them all. I'm happy to see a cultural change in a world where mental health awareness is becoming more and more talked about. Of course, exactly. Super Nick, I was flashing these up, but I thought I gotta read them out. It's a lifeline. You guys are amazing. Big up my brothers. Important topics to talk about. Some things transcend sport. We Scotch, you are class on mental health promotion and empathy. Really appreciate that there. Lee in the place saying, great message, Tereak. Well done, sons. Men's mental health needs to be spoken about more. Definitely. Really appreciate that, guys. And yeah, man. And CM, anything that you want to say on this as well, as we wrap up that topic?
Yeah, man. I agree with everyone in the comments, everything you say, bro. It's something that will continue to develop over the years, and some people understand it, some people won't. But the most important thing in life is education. You live, and a lot of older people per se, they say, once we get to a certain stage, it's over. But everybody can continue to learn at any age, as long as they're living, they're breathing. You can pick up a book, you can go on the internet, you can browse, and you can learn something new. So that's the most important thing when it comes to mental health. If you don't know, then have the effort and be willing to educate yourself on it and understand someday.
Exactly, man. It's so true, because education is so important. Sometimes you need to educate yourself about yourself, because you don't, so many things like your patterns in life. When you feel like that you can't do something, or you feel like you always fail at something, you need to have a look at the patterns and the signs that lead up to that so you can prevent them and stuff. So education is so important, and it is sometimes you have to learn about yourself and the certain decisions that you make and why you can't do certain things or why you feel like you can't anyway. So yeah, definitely. Sorry, apologies, Moss. I'm sorry if I didn't catch yours. Miss mine. Find someone you feel comfortable to talk to and open up with. As sometimes you just need to get it off your chest and you help the other person to. Indeed, Moss. Indeed, exactly. Two birds with one stone. People feel good when they can help. So open up and listen to is the most important part. It's true. It is true, and it's always feel like that you listen to is the most important part as well, Moss, because sometimes even when you talk, you can find out. Like you kind of work out the answers yourself. Sometimes you understand what I mean by that, CM.
100%, bro. Like you can stumble on things and you didn't even mean to, but you talk and then it stems into other conversations and stuff like that. It's an amazing thing if the art of communication. The art of communication, man. It's underrated.
And it is an art. Indeed. No worries, Josh. Yeah, you're probably wondering, if you have just joined in, you're probably wondering, this isn't Bournemouth versus Forest. This ain't football. But hey, it's exactly that. So yeah, we will get into it now. The final two games, which is, let me just bring up on here. So what is the final two games that we haven't spoke about? We've got Leeds. Brentford, and what was the last one? I can't remember. Leicester, Brighton. There you go. Yeah, Leicester, Brighton, and Leeds, Brentford. CM, I'll ask you on the Leeds, Brentford first, and then we'll go to the Leicester, Brighton. What's your thoughts on this game and the prediction as well?
So, I'm gonna say I think it's a Brentford win, but I've liked what Leeds have been doing recently. I don't know if this is how you say his name, Nonto.
He's correct, Nonto.
Yeah, but he scored a banging goal in I think it was the FA Cup the other day, where they were saying there were shades of Paulo Di Canio. But I've liked what he's done in the team since coming in. And Leeds, they're a bit up and down because I remember they were speaking about their manager and maybe his connection with the team not really being 100% there, and he's denied that in press conferences and really been frustrated with the press of how they've reported it. I don't know if that's the situation with an American coach coming over to the Premier League again and getting the hard side of things when it comes to the press, but yeah, it is a sticky one still, and you have to say it where that is. And Brentford, we all know about Brentford, man. Really big fan of their side, and Bumo, Ivan Toney, so many great players on that team. Visser, who's able to come off the bench and have a great role as well. And they have a stud of a manager, and they've been able, they'll have some tough moments, they'll have some good moments as well, but they've really established themselves in this league, and you can see that there's almost an arc where they can continue to develop if they do things correctly. The thing about Ivan Toney is it's been up in arms when the situation outside in the court is going to be sorted out and whether he's going to be banned or something like that and how long that's going to be. But as long as you've got him, you've got to use him. He's established himself as one of the best forwards in the league. It's going to be such a shame if he does get banned for a little bit. But in the end of the day, things are things and the law is law, right?
Exactly. It's true, man. It is a shame we're a player of his quality as well, and how he really been the talisman of Brentford, who are a very good side, very hard to beat as well. And that I think we all know that we've all faced a defeat at the hands of Brentford at their stadium at some point in their 2 years in the Premier League. And Thomas Frank, what a manager! That's the type of manager Spurs should be looking at. Those teams, if you're trying to break in to that top six, and but Newcastle took the risk with Eddie Howe, one of the best up-and-coming managers in that area, and it's worked. And that's what teams need to be a bit more brave to do. But whilst he's there at Brentford, he's got them into a top six battle at the moment. So I'm backing a Brentford win as well, man. I'm going to go with a 3-1 Brentford win. And I think if that happens, I think there's trouble for Jesse March. And yeah, I do think he has been, and you brought this up and you said it, it is xenophobia when you're talking about American managers. It's a bit more tongue in cheek and a bit more, it's like a bit more. Yeah, there's not hysterical, yeah, but a bit more jokes to it in terms when they talk about an American manager in the way that they do. But he has done a decent job, I thought, with Leeds. But there's been a bit of that split down the fan base right there. But I'm gonna go for a Brentford win 3-1. What was your prediction again, bro? So I can take it down.
I'm gonna say 2-1 Brentford.
2-1 Brentford. There we go, right there. And then for the final game, and then we'll get into your comments. So get your predictions for the last one, which is Leicester versus Brighton, which is middle of the table clash, I'd say. But both sides are on the edge of European / relegation for fighting football.
Yeah, Leicester City is such an unfortunate situation. I know people there are a lot of people who doubt Brendan Rodgers, but I generally think he's a good coach. And it's been a difficult scenario with Leicester because, when they have had the money to invest, so it's been hit and miss, like you said earlier, bro. And right now, they just don't have the finances able to improve that side. More so, you're looking at players where maybe you could look and sell to make the money up, but they haven't really invested well when they've had the opportunity, and now they're kind of stuck in a spot where you have the players. Brendan Rodgers can't really get more out of them or push them to the highest limits. So they're struggling right now, and I would have never imagined Leicester to be in a relegation race, but this is where they are, and it started with their bad form for a while now. When it comes to Brighton, new gaffers come in. They lost Potter. They lost a couple guys actually that were even in the workings and the hierarchy of the club. They've been able to start to find back form again. And I saw the comments from Adam Lallana regarding Trossard's exit. He said, "Hey, our form's been fine without him, and he hasn't really been a factor in that regard." So yeah, he's not wrong. They have Mitoma is a player who's emerging out of that squad. His pace, his just directness of that wide area. Just a big fan of the player. And then they've still got guys like Pascal Gross, Alexis McAllister, who for the first time the other day I heard his accent and I was thrown off again.
It is weird, and it doesn't suit the name. It doesn't suit the face either. So I understand, man. I totally understand. And yeah, man, brilliant points then. Mitoma, I remember I'd always say it. I said it's on my streams. Remember me and Moss, we first saw him watching Match of the Day. Highlights, he came on as a substitute and they have 3 highlights. I'm like, who's this brother? Who is this brother? Against Newcastle as well. What a baller, man. What a baller. So this is the thing. I saw a tweet with Trossard leaving Brighton. It's like, oh, it's all right. They'll just spawn in another Venezuelan under 21 player out of nowhere who probably be even better than Trossard, because that's how good their recruitment is at Brighton right now. They've got it on lock. And you know what? I'm backing Brighton in this one because Leicester, their issues, and they are a little bit of a one-man team at the moment. And with James Maddison being out, suffering that knee injury that he picked up, and I think he was nursing before the World Cup and before he went injured in that last West Ham game. But it's kind of really taken a toll on him now, and he's not been able to quite recover. I think it might be a bit more serious than we think, guys. How many times have we seen it, CM, where a player has a knee injury, they manage it, next thing you know, surgery? Emil Smith-Rowe, I've seen it with him this season, where they can't quite get over it and it requires surgery afterwards. But yeah, if they do that, then they'll be putting in their season in danger. Unless their new signing, that Victor Christensen, will be able to sort them out. We'll have to see. But I'm going to go for a 2-1 Brighton win. What about you, bro?
I'm gonna say 3-0 Brighton.
Through convincing. You feeling
I
that?
So. I think so, bro.
Watch, if Leicester win now, we'll both hang our head in shame.
Hey, judge. But, I can't have the judge allegations on my name.
It's true. Exactly that. It's usually me. Don't worry. Moss will let you know it's usually me. Big up yourself there, Pax. He goes for a 4-3. Leicester win. Hard goals in that one. Yeah, I'll take that. That won't be last on Match of the Day anymore if it goes that way. Leicester 1, Brighton 3, says David Lee. We've got for the Leeds game as well. Leeds 2-2 against Brentford. And Super Nick, the same score that I've gone for there in a 2-1 Brighton win away from home. Luke's gone for a 2-0 Brighton win as well. And then with Moss, same as me and Super Nick, with a 2-1 Brighton away win. It's about Rabiot. And oh man, he's not done too bad recently, but yeah, they have caused a mess throughout a lot of clubs recently. McAllister, yeah, my kind of player. Caicedo, so good, Ecuadorian. He's turned down Chelsea. Let's hope he continues to do so. And yes, Kendall, yes, Pax brought it in earlier, but appreciate it again, man. And it's still shocking. It's still shocking. 15 points for their corruptness again. So yeah, hey, there's nothing new under the sun, as it says, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing new under the sun, and will always be in the game, unfortunately. Red Bull, Jamie Vardy is a GOAT. And Burnley, and we're losing, sorry. West Brom are losing 2-1, says Moss. But guys, we have gone through all the games right here. Really appreciate you for sticking through, the lot of you. And if you've come in for a little bit, really do appreciate that. And thank you for the support that you've shown as well. And a massive thank you to my guest. He's a guest, he's a special guest, but he's also a massive family member, the OG in the place in CM. My brother, CM, really appreciate you. And let the people know where they can find you, what you've got coming up as well, coming up in the near future.
Yes, big ups to everybody in the chat. You can find me at CM22ENT over on YouTube, Twitch, creating different kinds of content. I also opened up a second channel recently, which is CM22, with the 20 just spelled out in letters. So go and check that out. But listen, it's always a blessing being on this channel with my brother T. Shout out to Ed, everybody, the fam, TTF, man. It's always a lovely experience. And this channel's road to 700, so you got to run up the numbers. Share to your friends and frenemies. Make sure you get to that 1,000 this year. This year, people.
Exactly. People, go check it out. What have you what's your plan for the second channel, 22?
So, like NBA watch-alongs, wrestling,
Nice.
and just casual football watch-alongs where I'm just watching other leagues and stuff like that.
Hey, there you go, people. If you're interested, NBA, wrestling, any other casual football where he's watching other leagues or other teams, go check it out as well. And people, the links are in the descriptions. Go check it out. I will add the 22 link in that description as well. So people, go check it out. And on the channel coming up tomorrow, we may have something going on Twitch for you. I've said it now. I'm going to commit to it. Yeah. I'm sure you guys have been watching, or you've been keeping up to date with The Last of Us. I'm going to start playing it. Okay. CM's happy about that. So yeah, I will be streaming it. I haven't done a gaming stream in ages, right? I had to have CM help me. CM's a massive help, right? When I first started like trying to set up the Streamlabs and all these things. Sorry to bore you with the admin, guys, but these things take time to set up. And CM is an absolute pro. That's why I do recommend you go watch him on Twitch, right? Whenever he's playing games, he makes it a fun experience. Even if you're someone that's not into gaming, right? The community that CM has, and the chat that he has in there, and the little fun things that you can do with the channel points and etc. The Twitch, go over there and support, man. CM. So yeah, and I'm trying. And yes, Paxton, the return to Twitch, it always comes round once every 4 months by the looks of it. But yeah, I'm gonna try and do a series of playing The Last of Us whilst it keeps coming out at least once a week. I want to be playing it. And yeah, there's no better way to do it on Saturday as well. So yeah, I'll be playing that as well. But yes, and then the next time I will be returning for an Arsenal show. And people, I'm going to get in touch with you, Moss, for Monday evening if you're free and available as well. But yeah, I'll get messaging you after this show in regards to that. And Matthew Free, awkward vibes at the last time. It wasn't good. I had all these issues that I couldn't get the audio going, the brightness, there was so much, and then I was failing on the game. So yeah, I'm gonna spend most of the day sorting it out tomorrow. So stay tuned.
Among Us was a good one as well.
Which one? Which one was
Among
that?
Us.
Oh, Among Us. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you did play
yeah.
that. That was good. We got all the man then playing that, and then we played it for a little bit as well. Among Us, didn't we? So yeah, we'll have to bring these back because I always started off with a little bit of Fall Guys and then turned into the other games. But yeah, man, go check out on Twitch, people. We are streaming only on YouTube right now, but we'll go dedicate those to Twitch right there. Massive appreciation once again. Love to you all. You know what you need to do? Subscribe to my and CM's channel. Hit that like button, and guess what? Up the Arsenal as we beat Manchester United on a weekend.
Let's say that.
Love to you all, people. And we're out of here. And have a good rest of your Friday.